Well, finally. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to call the Town of Rochester Planning Board regular meeting to order. Would you please join me? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation of God, visible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We have a bunch on our agenda tonight, so we will get right started with roll call. Chair Grosso is here. Member Jones? Here. Member Jarvis? Here. Member Graham? Here. Member Maloney? Here. Member Pinsky? Here. Member Nelson? The alternate, Melina Duda, is present. The secretary is here. Our attorney Dave Gordon is here. Our town planner Dave Church is here. And our engineer Greg Volner will be here for the third item on tonight's agenda. That's for you. This is also for you. Okay, we will do a little trivia. I had some trivia today from the Granary because they're on our agenda for later today, but we'll talk about just Ackworth trivia in general. We'll save that for a later date. So one quick tidbit, which is today's Ackworth post office, right over here on the corner, was originally the site of a pharmacy, Breslow's Pharmacy, Les Aaron's Luncheonette, and originally the town clerk's office worked there, was the only town item out of that building. That's what I have today. I'll save the other stuff for next month. Okay, first item on the agenda is 2023-657, a site plan approval in an R5 district for Twin Track Promotions and Ackworth Speedway. Gary Palmer and his daughter Melissa. At 299 Whitfield Road, the applicant proposes to add 12 commercial events to their already approved site plan. Board members, we asked for the applicant for some homework. We asked for them to outline what those site plans are going to look like for each individual instance. So if he was going to do a car show or a barbecue, how would that look like? If he was going to do a movie in the theater park type thing compared to something else, we asked for all of those. So we have that now. Thank you, Melissa, for doing that. It came out great. For the record, Helena Duda will be sitting in on this application for the Ackworth Speedway, and Peter Nelson will be recused. Okay, our public hearing is still open, so let's hear from the public. For those of you who have not been here in the past, I'll read my elevator speech and then we'll get started. As we open the public hearing, a couple of items for the public to be aware of and to recognize. The public hearing is to express, for the public to express their knowledge and or input about a specific project. The board will grant public comment to community members who have signed up on the clipboard at the table located at the entrance. Community members who have signed up will be granted between 1 and 3 minutes per person to speak. This opportunity to speak is not a question and answer from the board or the applicant, yet the opportunity to speak about the application and or knowledge of the property. Comments should be related towards the health, safety, and welfare of the town of Rochester and the project in discussion. That being said, we will get started. I have a couple here. I'd like to get some people who have not had the opportunity to speak to start. Rebecca, we'll start with you. How's that? You're first on the list. We'll just go in order.
So I'm passing around a picture with some snippets of views of Cooper Street where I live. I was out for a walk yesterday, and so I was going online, took some pictures. And when you look at these pictures, what words come to your mind? The Cooper Street is rural. It's country. The road is narrow in spots and wider in others. It's straight in some places, but it's pretty twisty and turny. In fact, at the very end of Cooper Street, against the approach to Whitfield, we have a 90-degree turn in the street. There are no shoulders. Macadam tends to crumble along the edges of the street. We get potholes in the spring. And there are no white lines along the road to guide you. The ditches are deep and muddy, especially along the mountain. Sometimes I see tire tracks in the ditch or somebody's stepped off the edge with their tires. And when I'm driving, I often have to slow right down because I have to punch my car up against that edge where the ditch is to let the oncoming traffic go by. and it can be really challenging in the dark on a rainy night. But I love Cooper Street, and a lot of my neighbors are here. We love Cooper Street. However, it's not a road that is constructed to handle traffic, nor is it built to handle large, heavy vehicles. The wear and tear of the road would be considerable if there were more traffic. I could take similar pictures of all of the country roads in our neighborhood. Whitfield, Upper Whitfield Airport, Bone Hollow, Smith Road, any of those roads. They all look just like Cooper Street. Some are hillier. And on race day, for example, there's an onslaught of additional traffic in our area. We do not want more traffic, which is what would happen if there were more events. It's not good for us, and it's not good for the roads. We do not have the infrastructure to handle the increase in traffic. On another topic, through the Freedom of Information Act, we were able to obtain the materials which Garrett Palmer has provided us so far on his application. And they included a request for consideration, a short environmental assessment, the site plan, a special use application, a site map, a couple of noise studies, parking information, and then a site plan for the stage events. But looking further at the local laws, 140.46 in particular, which is entitled Application and Site Plan Required, it looks to me, unless I'm missing something, as if there are more pieces to the puzzle. So according to the local law 140.46, the site plan should also include natural resource restrictions, floodplains, wetlands, and ecologically sensitive areas. It should also include land use, including stormwater management, sewer disposal, and water supply systems. A completed state environmental quality review assessment form, commonly known as SEQR. A topology of the site using 2-foot contour intervals, along with detailed grading systems and stormwater prevention plans. Proposed conveyance, storage, distribution, generation, use, treatment, and disposal of any stormwater and sewage, including estimated daily flow. The stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is SWPBP, which you see a lot in the local law, is required, and it's detailed in local law 140.2. And wetlands as mapped by the DEC in New York and or the Army Corps of Engineers. One thing I noticed in local law 140.47 under waivers, it says that local law says the planning board cannot waive the state environmental quality review requirements. Under local law 140.48, I've been reading today, under hearing and decision, is stated that the planning board cannot grant approval before a decision has been made with respect to environmental impacts pursuant to SEQR. We trust that the planning board will follow all the local laws when considering the application for special events at the Ackworth Speedway, and that you will follow the same strict regimen that is required of every other applicant who comes to you for permission to hold special commercial events. And on a final note, there's one phrase I noticed under local law 140.55, which is called special use review criteria, just meant specifically for the planning board. The first item on the list kind of sums up what the planning board must think about when it's looking at an application. So without quoting all the legal jargon, it says that the planning board must consider, quote unquote, whether the proposed use will have a detrimental or positive effect on adjacent properties or the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I have TK David. Can you screw that up? 147 Cooper.
I'll just sit. So I'm just gonna read some of what I have here. I have trouble with my vision, so it's a little difficult for me. But I'm gonna do my best shot. When the problem of enforcement in our town was raised at the December 11th town of Rochester planning board meeting concerning, I don't know if I can do this, it's my fault. My vision is too far gone.
Did you submit something in writing to us already? Have you submitted something?
No,
already?
I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it just, if you wanna start here, and then, okay.
When the problem of enforcement in our town was raised at the December 11th Town of Rochester Planning Board meeting in concerning Ackworth Speedway, Chair Mark Grasso told board member Zoran Pinsky, "I don't care about what Arrowwood's doing," despite member Pinsky's attempting to make the point that the issue is related as another example of the planning board approving site plans and amendments, knowing the conditions for these approved site plans will go unenforced and unregulated. Chair Grasso was making the point that the problems with Arrowwood have no bearing on the approval of the Ackworth Speedway's proposal. But even more recently, in the first secret training session with the town attorney, David Gordon, advised member of Pinsky and the rest of the planning board that they should not approve a site plan or site plan amendment if they believe the conditions for their approval cannot be enforced. Within this meeting, the town's lack of enforcement capability was invoked at several junctures. If the conditions for an approval cannot be enforced, Attorney Gordon advised the planning board, "You should deny the application and explain to the applicant that we cannot guarantee what is going to comply to the code. We can't guarantee that it's going to be a non-significant impact because it may be a significant impact. We can't control this. Therefore, this application is denied." And yet, in the same meeting, it was admitted to the planning board, that the planning board almost never issues a positive declaration concerning environmental impacts on any proposal put forward to them. So we have plenty of site plan approvals that will have serious environmental impacts, but virtually no enforcement.
It goes on, and I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you. Melina Ham, 238 Cooper.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here and doing the work that you do to help our town become the best it can possibly be. Mine is short and sweet tonight due to the fact that there are substantial gaps that still remain in the Speedway expansion application. I respectfully request that the public comment period remains open until the application is actually complete. We need clarity on the remaining information so that we can intelligently assess the impacts. And that's going to be possible once all the materials have been submitted. Thank you.
Jim Lafferty.
Just to amplify what she said, which is that, we've had an opportunity to review the application in greater detail, and there is a pretty glaring lack of greater detail so far. Through the meetings that we've attended here, we've heard things like up to 2,000 cars could be parked on this site. And it's just odd that it feels like this whole process is more deferential than proactive. Like if 2,000 cars, for example, was the idea that is being proposed, I would imagine the town would have a concept of how to handle 500 cars. And they would say, you would need X number of people to manage this. You would need X number of dollars allocated to safety and traffic and litter and all of that stuff. And then would have a concept that would scale with the things being proposed by Mr. Palmer. And you would say, okay, at a certain point, this is going to reach a level that's just untenable for the local infrastructure. And I would hope that we would see more proactive on the planning board's side, more proactive management of what this is going to be. I would like to see more details. We've heard that there's going to be more details about the types of events. I would like to see that. I would like to find out where we can go to find more of that information out, because I haven't seen it yet. And as Melina said, I would request that the period for public comment be left open so that we have an opportunity to ingest this stuff and formulate as a community an intelligent, thoughtful, measured response to it. Because we're going to be the ones who have to live with it.
Thank you. Neil Bora.
Thank you for the opportunity to share comments. It seems like there's a major opportunity to find common ground and meet somewhere in the middle. Many valid points have been made regarding the benefits of allowing additional uses of the track. At the same time, the noise, traffic, infrastructure, and environmental risks of these new activities are real. There's little doubt that if not properly addressed, these would adversely affect the community. I hope we can find a path forward that represents compromise to maximize collective benefit. This will require strong leadership from the board and proper oversight of planned activities, as well as enforcement of laws and regulations. It will require allocation of appropriate resources. To properly hear all sides, it's imperative that the public comment period remain open until the Speedway application is complete.
Thank you. Okay, so that was all the members that signed up. Is there any additional comments from public? Ma'am, name and location and address.
Christy DeBoer, 254 Whitfield Road. Sorry, I didn't sign in ahead of time.
That's okay.
I was chasing the dog.
Awesome.
I want to first extend my appreciation to the kind and professional staff I've interacted with at the planning board offices, as well as town hall and town clerk. While I've lived in this town for 11 years and counting, I have not needed to contact the town staff before this past week. Everyone I met with showed patience and helped me with my questions. That said, I remain surprised on how difficult the town of Rochester Planning Board is making it for residents to obtain information about new applications and proposed amendments to site plans. Over the past 15 years of my professional career, I have interacted extensively with planning boards in town and village of New Paltz, town of Rosendale, town of Gardner, as well as about a half a dozen municipalities in southern Ulster County. I've never had the challenges I've experienced with our town trying to get information. You ask the community to provide public input on proposals to the planning board that make it a multi-step process in order to go and hunt out that information. There is nothing accessible for the applications on the website. If an applicant is asked at a planning board meeting to provide additional materials and more information on their application, none of this information is provided to the public. We have to go and ask for it, not even knowing if there's new information to ask for or not. Other towns post their applications on their website, maintain folders that capture previous documentation of what was submitted, and post new documents in real time. While the Freedom of Information Law request FOIL process was pleasant enough due to the staff having to go and request FOIL application, then physically take it to the town clerk, who was also very lovely, and then await what I was requesting to see if it even existed, and then left to wait for them to process it and then send it and then email it to me. This is all something that most people would not know how to do, much less have time to do. I implore this planning board to consider the lack of transparency that exists. Compared to other towns where one can go online and with a few clicks see what the planning board is seeing from the applicant so people can respond to it, allowing residents to be able to express support, ask questions, prepare for public comment, the difference is of note. I respectfully ask the planning board apply some reasonableness towards this process of transparency, and I ask you to keep the public comment open so we can review all the information as it comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am? Yes. Name and address, please.
Ruth Maker, 281 Cooper Street. I'm going to repeat a lot of what's already been said, but I think it bears repeating. Thank you for being respectful and hearing me. It's an important and potentially honorable responsibility to be a member of the town board. You are the ones who determine whether or not proposed changes affect people's lives. I am concerned about the willingness to forego important steps in reviewing Mr. Palmer's application to hold additional events at the racetrack. For example, as has been mentioned, Town Code 14055A in particular requires that the planning board consider whether or not a proposal will have a detrimental impact on adjacent properties or on the safety, health, and welfare of local residents, which additional events certainly would. Part 2 in the SECRA review requires that you consider how such a proposal might impair the character and quality of the community, and how it might create a change in the traffic. I haven't seen any evidence of these rules being followed, but nor do we know upon what the studies should be based. What exactly is being proposed? The application in question should be readily public available, but it is not. Why? It required the extra step of making a FOIL request to find out that the application is in fact complete, rendering this public comment period somewhat premature because we really don't know what we're talking about. So a lot of time and energy not knowing. It's the planning board's very important work to fully review the application once it is complete and to require all of the codes be followed and the reviews be done before it makes a decision that could impact our community for years to come. It is not about us and them or whether or not Mr. Palmer is a good man. I am sure he is. That is not the point. And it's not about what is already happening in our town. We've established that. It is about doing what is right and legal and making thoughtful decisions based on facts and a clear understanding of what is being proposed. My neighbors and I are hardworking people who deeply value our community and the quality of life that we enjoy and cherish. And I respectfully request that the public comment period be left open until the application is complete and that once it is, all reviews and codes are followed so that our quality of life is preserved. I thank you.
Anyone else? Last chance. Once, twice, okey dokey. All right, Jasmine, would you pull up and you already have it? Okay, so Mr. Palmer, Melissa, you've submitted your commercial event site plans. There's 5 or 6 of them, I believe. Thank you. In each of your site plans, you provided a site overview of your map and what you're proposing for each one of those, which would include your parking, your grandstand seating, say a stage if there is one, where your movies would go and those individual items. So board, this is sort of our chance now. Has anyone had the opportunity to review all of these? I know Mr. Church did an adequate review of them. Just comments on the actual site. Okay, any comments?
Well, I'd like to hear from our consultant first.
Dave?
Well, no, you had to waive, just to clarify, you did waive the necessity of a to scale map, correct?
Correct.
So some of the items that have been brought up were previously acknowledged as not necessarily by the planning board. It is also an amendment to an existing.
Yeah, I just want to question what you just said about waiving something. I don't know if we waived it as opposed to, it wasn't categorized as a special use project. It was categorized as an accessory to an existing site plan.
Right.
So since it's an accessory to a site plan, we're not waiving anything. Well,
No.
we're using the existing site plan that's
That's
in place.
in place.
That's in place, so I don't know whether you want to call it a waiver.
I guess
or-
we've accepted the current site plan that was provided.
And
That's
that determination was made by the building inspector, not by
Well,
us.
footnoting, I wasn't at the February meeting.
understood. Yeah, that's great.
Right.
Keep going on that topic.
Code enforcement officer waived the necessity for a special use permit
There you
by
go.
memo, correct?
Yes.
This board waived the necessity for a map to scale at the request of the applicant,
We received the map that was provided by the
which
applicant.
you since got anyway, right?
That's correct. And he signed.
But which is typically a map done by an engineer or surveyor with topography and
Correct.
you waive the necessity of that in part, I think, because of the 1992 approval,
That's
right?
correct.
And the fact that according to the code enforcement officer's review of this, there was no infrastructure and if any physical changes happening on site, it's the addition of events. So, these maps, from my perspective, appear to me what you requested at the February meeting, which I wasn't at. So at that level, the applicant did satisfy by providing these what you requested. The issue is you'll ultimately have to go through, and there is the seeker requirement, which you're fully aware of, which has been raised. So you will have to go through the procedures of confirming that it meets the review criteria as a site plan amendment. That's still pending to the board.
So Melissa, do you want to go through the site plans that you have and just sort of give us an overview of what you submitted? How's that sound?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, we categorize the events we were thinking of into 4 categories. We would do something like a stage event. We would do like a vendor/exhibit event. We would do an outdoor movie event, and then an on-track event, a non-racing on-track event. So for the stage event, on the map, you'll see where we would locate a stage approximately with grandstand viewing. The admission concession stations are labeled, the parking is also labeled where that would be. We have the parking capacity set at the 499, which would make maximum attendees at 1,248. If you notice, that's what I kept standard for every single event.
Okay.
So that does not change.
Go to the next page.
And that was using that 2.5 per vehicle
Yep,
information. I
That's
got
what we
from the board.
have. Yep.
The next kind of event, so like for a stage event, we're considering this is non-concert entertainment. We have completely taken concerts, live music off of the table. This would be something like dramatic theater, a comedy show, a magician. We're thinking dance recitals, like anything that would require the use of the stage with grandstand seating.
Understood.
The next type of event would be a vendor/exhibit event. We're thinking things like flea markets, craft fair, farmers market, food truck event, a touch truck event for children, car shows where people are in their parked vehicles looking at cars, a circus, things like that. We have the exhibit vendor space in what's now the pit area and parking in the front two lots. So we have the admission gate would be like where you would get into the pits now, and the bathrooms and concessions are labeled. The next type of event we were thinking would be an outdoor movie event. Now, I put picnic or drive-in style. We're not really sure if it's sitting in your vehicle. I haven't looked into the logistics of broadcasting through radio into people's cars. Or it would be like picnic style. You bring your own fun bit, sit down and watch. Thinking using the back of the victory lane as would be this.
So for that event, you wouldn't even use the track at all,
No, we would be
just
anywhere near
use
the
the
track.
park. Okay.
Either with the vendor event, we would be
Yep.
anywhere near the track. Right?
Okay.
And that would, really the main parking area in the middle would be where you would see the screen. Accessory parking on that first lot. Okay, and finally, we did an on-track event. So we're thinking something like athletic competition, bicycles, running, BMX bikes, the rodeo would be something that would be done on the track. Yeah, throwing, something.
Bocce ball.
Yeah, bocce competition.
Boxing.
Yeah. So, same thing, that would be the grandstand seating, just like a stage event, with something right on the front stretch there, and we would utilize all three of those parking areas.
Thank
So
you.
we tried to pick events that we feel would, appeal to all members of the community. Some of our racing fans, some of the people that aren't familiar with the track, that aren't into motorsports, because there's plenty of people that aren't. I get that, my family is not. So, things to get the kids involved and, like an outside movie or like a show outside, I think that'd be a really great and not too loud type of experience that anyone could enjoy. We're looking at bringing people into the facility that are not our normal Friday night crowd. We think we have a lot to offer.
Thank you. Okay, board members, start with Anne Marie. Anything care to add or share?
No, I think that they have it well planned out. It looks good.
Okay. Jorian?
I think that the presentation is quite sketchy to make a decision. For example, in those categories, all those events ending, list of event ending with scepter. What is it scepter in this particular situation?
Okay.
Then we don't know hours of the events, where is it formally written clearly. Allowable number of cars in each parking space. This parking space, that parking space on the right, for original permit, it wasn't parking. It just some for cars or something like that. If you look at very original plan, that space is not identified as parking. It's identified as a pit area.
Sure, pits is for parking cars, race cars, or vehicles that are bringing in the race car. So a truck, a trailer, a tractor trailer.
Right, so it's
Open
not,
trailer.
it's not a parking for visitors.
It's not parking for visitors currently, it's for parking for members of the community who are racing. So they are paying to be there.
So I'm assuming, that's my next question, how many participants gonna be, or how many cars will belong to activities creators? In other words, if it's gonna be circus, how many gonna be part of the circus versus general public. They're gonna bring their own cars. This is not clear in that count of the cars. Is that 499 cars include also participants of the event?
Okay.
Or visitors?
Well,
Only
sorry, I'm
visitors?
pretty sure the paperwork I submitted, our maximum capacity for parking is way higher than what I've listed here. So you can
I
put that
understand
in.
that, but you remember last time that, okay, I don't want to get in discussion, we discussed it, maximum is 1,500 people.
Mhm.
So, and actually, I don't know, was it 45 came then 2.5? I'm not sure it was that right number.
Yeah, that's the
Per
number
car?
we calculated off of that we've used elsewhere.
So, following up on the parking, you need to specify allowable number of cars on each parking space, like we're doing everywhere. Okay? How numbers of cars and the total attendance number will be controlled? Does the total number of attendees, you already asked the question, include participants / vendors of the events? What safety measures will be taken? How extensive will be parking lighting in the dark hours? That's my question. And again, elephant in the room, nobody wants to touch. It's ambient noise studies. It needs to be done professionally.
Anything else? Okay, Rick? Wait, come back to you?
Yeah, go back.
Sure. Helena?
I'm gonna summarize some of the things that we discussed. The original application to what we're looking at now. So the original application was kind of a scatter shot, which I can appreciate as a business person. You want to try and capture as much as you can. And you heard from the board, you heard from the public. I think the primary concern was noise, especially from a concert, and potentially the rodeo. One of the other, you have then since removed that from the application. You heard the residents, you heard us. So I think that's a good thing. The other thing that Attorney Gordon mentioned was, is this going to be a type 1, type 2 unlisted action under seeker? He identified it would kick it into a type 1 if you had greater than 500 vehicles. You are now limiting to 499 or less, et cetera. So I think we're on the right track. Pardon the pun. I think you're on the right track. You did provide some ambient noise readings. Being a technical person, I have some comments on that, but I don't think that's really germane to what we're discussing tonight. I think, and we're only talking about 12 events a year.
Right.
This is not an ongoing 5 days a week or once a week. So there's this balance. And, a lot of the times when you're discussing noise impacts, one of the ways to mitigate noise impacts is through hours of operation, less, and shorten the duration. So you're not going 365 days, you're going to 12 days. So, I think we're on the right road to improve.
Peter's recused. How about Cindy?
I think Helena's brought up everything I was gonna say and then some. I think we're on the right track. We're moving forward. I like how you have scoped out the different layouts for the different types of events that you're gonna have there. That's nice. Just for clarity, I'll give you my interpretation about total attendance. You're looking at people coming to see the show or to participate, limiting them to 199 cars. And that number does not include the people that are there providing the events, correct?
Mhm.
Correct, okay, good. And I think your site plans are good. I think it would bring good things to the community. Hopefully we can get a good middle ground.
Zach?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm gonna back off of Helena's comments because I agree with them. All these plans look good to me. And I think it's gonna be a great thing for the community.
Hey, Rick?
Yeah, without stepping too much into the legal minefield of special use versus an accessory use to an existing site plan, which is important to this project. So my knowledge of this project goes back to when I first came to this area about 10 years ago. And of any of the event projects that are in the area, we won't name the other ones, this is probably the best managed of any of them, including the presence of emergency services that I know the applicant pays for himself. And people to monitor who's coming in, how many are coming in, lighting, directional signs, adequate lighting existing already. So there's a lot in place in this project or in this existing event space that arguably I could say that at sometimes some of the others that are in the town don't comply with what they agreed to comply with. That's a different issue. We don't check up on the other ones, or any of them for that matter. I'm still a little confused, and I saw Dave. You can comment if I'm finishing my comments, but type 1, type 2, I don't think it makes a difference. Question mark. What's important is whether or not we believe that all of the requirements of secret have been met. Type 1 defines what kind of secret process we have to go versus not a type 1, but I saw you either raising your eyebrows or shaking your head, so you need to comment on that eventually. One of the noisiest uses of this site, namely the concert, is being eliminated. That's great. So with the exception of a rodeo, and I'm not sure how much noise is generated by that, many of these are passive once people get onto the site. So the issue is getting the people onto the site and the traffic involved. He already has an approval to do 40 some odd.
40 even.
40 even.
Yeah, and we're lucky if we get 20.
And so there's already a traffic issue. There'll be more days, presumably. You'll be able to do your 20 or 30 plus an additional 12. This board, I know in the past, has recommended to the town board, at least I believe we have, to get rid of commercial events, but for certain areas of this particular
Zoning
kind of
districts.
zoning. And I don't know whether that's going to be done or not, but I certainly believe that there's a breaking point with commercial events in residential areas, which is really the big elephant on the table. But this law, if you would, or this permissive use is already there. And since it is an accessory use to an existing site plan, it doesn't require the same level of review that we would do with the special use. It still requires to do seeker, and that's where I need some input from Dave. But I'm comfortable with where we are right now in terms of this project, given the way that the applicant has shown that they manage this this site. Having said that, I also know that if the applicant was to sell it to a different person, the approvals passed along with the land, and somebody else might run this in not so good a fashion. But some of the uses which are objectionable to me, large concerts, would not be permitted. That would be part of the conditions of the approval. We can't do them.
Sure.
So I'd like to hear more about the seeker process.
Okay, so I will, in my opinion, the number of 499 cards, tell me if I'm wrong, that is inclusive of everyone included in that actual special, in the actual event. So to go against what Cindy said is the 499 is the total amount of vehicles that you're able to have, inclusive of everything that is going on at the track. That's including of your car, if you're taking money at the admissions, and Gary, if he's managing.
What about my house? Am I gonna get
No,
charged?
no, this is on site. So that's where that 499 number comes from, just for clarity. I hope I didn't use that. Is that correct?
Well.
Interpret.
Okay, when Cindy mentioned that, you may have seen me raise my eyebrows or whatever I did, because I thought that she was incorrect in that I thought it was a total of 499 cars. And that's what Mark already said. I looked it up, and it turns out, well, first let me back up. The applicant can do whatever they want. They can apply for whatever they want. The only question I spoke about is whether it's a type 1 action or unlisted action. And, you know, again, they can move forward with a type 1 action if they wanted to. In my opinion, they may have overreacted to that threshold. But, so all I'm gonna comment on right now is just the type 1 or unlisted, which as you pointed out, there are slight differences in procedure, but basically we're gonna end up making the same call as to whether or not it's a significant adverse environmental impact, and therefore gets a positive declaration, or has no significant adverse environmental impact, and we get a negative declaration. The type 1 threshold, I looked it up as we were speaking, it's parking for 500 vehicles. So it's not a question of people who attend, it's not even a question of, it's how big the parking is. And so to turn it around, the question is, the parking would seem to include quote unquote parking for vendors, et cetera, unless it was part of a property where they were just sort of parked in their garage, parked in the driveway, residential property, and it doesn't add anything. So the seeker constraint for type 1 action is parking for 500 vehicles or more. That's all I can comment on. And so it's up to, we really would have, again, more specificity in the application would be helpful, but bottom line is if there's parking for 500 vehicles, it's a type 1 action. If there's parking for 499 vehicles, it's not. And as far as the site plan is concerned, again, they can do whatever they want to propose. But that's, and so if we want to keep this as an unlisted action, we're going to have to draft a site plan approval with a condition that embodies this particular constraint. That seems to be where they want to go. So bottom line is parking. The parking will be restricted. If they want to go ahead with an unlisted action, parking will be restricted to 499 vehicles. And once we write that sentence, it's going to be up to the CEO to interpret what that means. But whether to count the parking lot in the back where the vendors are, or the driveway where they live,
He has
something
enough
like
parking
that.
for an array of vehicles.
It's parking for 500
For a
vehicles.
commercial event,
That's
it's under 500.
That's black and white in the secret regs.
Thank you. Okay, where do we want to go next, board?
I think the first thing we should do is close the public hearing.
Okay,
And then after that, discuss the crafting of an approval.
you want to make a motion to close
I'll
the
make a
hearing?
motion to close the public hearing.
Motion from Rick and a whole slew of seconds. I'll use Zach this time. Zach for a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One no? Any abstentions? Got it. Okay. So we have a closed public hearing. And want to go over the seeker part 2 first? Okay.
Did I ask the question?
No. Not yet. We'll go over this and then then you have all the time. Okay.
They should.
One goes up and the other down.
That's the thing.
What, do we want to go over seeker first? You want to, what,
But just on the,
sure.
my one question is, and this kind of goes to Rick's concern about if the property is sold. In the approval, will there be statements that state there will be no concerts or things of?
We'll get there when we get to the approval. It'll outline what they can and what they can't.
That's part of what they call conditions.
Okay,
Wanted to make sure.
part 2, seeker assessment form. We're gonna go through all 11 of these items as required. And I'd like to take a hand vote on your vote individually, and Jasmine will write that for the record. Okay, here we go. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? Raise your hand for no. Raise your hand for moderate or large. Okay, no, moving on. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Raise your hand for no. Raise your hand for yes. Will the proposed action impair the quality?
You need to decide how many.
You had 6 yeses, 1 no.
Well, we should make them say that.
He's on.
Okay, good.
Here we go. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Raise your hand for no. Raise your hand for yes.
Moderate. Say moderate.
Okay, we got you. She's writing it down.
Let me back up a step. This form is usually used to determine whether we do a part 3. At this stage, we're using it for something different, which is okay, but I want everybody to understand what we're doing here. What you're doing here is going through the analysis for declaration of significance.
That's what Jordan was talking about, the moderate to small, that's really the criteria to figure out if it's if we're gonna do a part three. I want the board to be very, very clear that for every one of these questions, what we're really trying to figure out is whether there will be a significant adverse environment. To the extent that these questions are used as a diagnostic to do with declaration of
What the next step
significance,
is.
the question for every one of them is no longer moderate to small, it's will this cause a significant adverse environmental impact? And I want to state two more things. One is that you should look at these broadly, because this is just a list of specific questions. If there's anything that's going to cause a significant adverse environmental impact, we need to know that, which leads to the second point, which is that an answer of yes to any one of these questions causing a significant adverse environmental impact is a positive declaration. A negative declaration requires every single impact that's raised to be answered, no significant adverse environmental impact. And the positive, that the answer of yes is not just a yes, it's a maybe. Anything that might cause a significant adverse environmental impact is going to get a yes and a positive declaration. You've got to answer no to every one of the criteria. And this is similar, we're just using this really as a kind of a tool that we'd otherwise have to go through the criteria in the declaration of significance section of the regulations, which is 617.7. So this is the questions are very similar, as you guys know, impact on air, impact on water. We'll get some specifics, but we have to go through every one and decide that it's not going to cause a significant adverse environmental impact in order to do the declaration.
On this form.
We do this every
significant-
time. Yeah.
Significant adverse on this form is moderate to large impact. It's that question mark.
Yeah, and that's what I'm pointing out, is that's why I want, because it's already mentioned it in terms of moderate. Those words are out the window now. The words in the law, this is the law. The words in the law is significant adverse environmental impact for every one of these, yes or no. Yes or maybe, no or maybe.
There you go.
No or maybe are your only two answers to a significant adverse environmental impact for every question we're gonna raise.
Okay, here we go. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkways? No?
Yes.
Or yes? No?
No.
For mass transit?
Not for mass transit, for existing level of traffic.
Bike and walk.
Wait, where's your?
Okay, hang on. Will the proposed action result in adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkways?
So it's in one.
No. Raise your hand for no. Raise your hand for no.
No,
Raise your hand for yes.
because it's existing.
Okay. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy options? No.
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? Guys, you guys are killing me. Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? No. Or public or private wastewater treatment utilities? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No? Yes, anyone?
No.
Okay. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? Example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? No? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. Okey doke. That is the short form, part two. So with that, we need to type this. Is an unlisted action, David? Yep. Unlisted action. Under 499 cars. Okay. Questions on that? Now there was an array of questions.
You need to do a pause or a negative check.
Well, unlisted action does not create a type one, so
Make a motion for a negative.
I need a motion to make a motion for a negative declaration of significance based on our findings. Anyone make a motion for that?
Motion for a negative declaration.
I have a negative deck from Helena. I need a second.
I'll second.
Second from Rick, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
Abstain.
And Dorian
Doesn't make
abstained.
sense to me.
I recuse.
Yep, we gotcha. Okey dokey, so we have it typed. We have our non-negative declaration, and I have a resolution that was typed today. I'll pass this around. No, thank you. And make sure, I think there's one in there for Melissa. Well, listen, Gary, I got one coming to you, okay? We want to have you, ask you to follow along for us. You have an extra, Emery? Yes. Okay. As I read, there might be things that need to be changed as comments from today, so we'll update those as we go. Feel free to stop me, and I will keep going until I hear something else. Resolution for the Town of Rochester Planning Board Site Plan Approval for March 11, 2024. Decision Planning Board 2023-657 Site Plan for Site Plan Conditional Approval at Ackworth Speedway located at 299 Whitfield Road. The code enforcement officer has determined that this is a determination letter for November 21 of 2023. Skipping to page number 2. We have all the whereases. That does not change any other one. Here we go. Special conditions. No more than 12 additional non-racing events are permitted per year. This permit does not authorize the construction of any new permanent facilities or features. Temporary tents, stages, or other structures may be constructed specific to individual events. All such temporary structures and any equipment associated with such events must be removed within 4 days after each event and shall remain in place a maximum of 7 days altogether, except by code enforcement officer approval when the next event is scheduled within 7 days of the preceding event.
That's actually on code.
That is our code. Yep. Number 4, the applicant shall maintain a buffer zone along the southerly boundary and along Whitfield Road. Along the southerly boundary buffer shall be 25 feet in width along the line described as north 88 degrees, 11 minutes, 00 seconds west. That's coming from your site plan you provided. Beginning on the easterly side of the existing driveway as shown in the applicant's site plan. Along Whitfield Road, buffer shall be 15 feet in from the ditch. The buffer shall consist of white pine trees, a minimum of 5 feet high, and 12 feet on center, and 2 lines that shall be staggered. Dead or dying trees shall be replaced with the same tree size.
We should, I think we need
That's
to
our
make
code.
we need to make a note here.
Uh-huh.
This already exists.
Correct.
That was my question. Are we
It's already
asking for this or it's
Nope,
already?
this is existing.
The only other thing I would add into the last statement, as far as dead or dying trees shall be replaced with trees of the same size within the same growing season or within the year. You should add a time frame to when those trees need to be replaced.
Got it.
And this has existed for 15, 20
60
years,
some years.
30 years. The buffer.
Yeah.
How did you create the buffer?
They put that in when I think Harry Oster helped.
So how long?
60, 50
25
years.
years.
50 years?
Oster helped, no.
50 years.
61.
Yeah.
So just, it's already there and it's been there.
I'm gonna just put with same growing season.
Within 1 year.
I'm not gonna say within same growing season, which is pre-existing.
He can't, right, he can't replace an existing same size tree.
Right.
If the tree dies, well,
Well, yeah, they're,
they're 50 feet tall.
it's just good permit language.
Are we against?
No, I'm fine. I'm good with what you're saying.
No, I just want to make the note that it's there already. It's been in for decades.
No, I know. The issue that Helena is questioning is that she's saying if a tree dies, a new one needs to be planted in the same growth, which could be 50 feet tall.
Ain't gonna happen. Right.
Yeah, but
Well, you put something there.
the new one needs to be planted.
It's
Just typical.
We're moving on.
language when you ask.
We're moving on to number 5. All event activities include setup and breakdown must occur between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. That's our code. Number 6, all activities and events authorized by this approval shall be limited in attendance to less than 500 vehicles. Number 7, all activities and events authorized by this approval shall comply with the provision of Town of Rochester zoning section 140-20, general, commercial, and industrial standards, including standards for noise as stated in 140-20F. Number 8, sound testing for compliance with noise standards is completed on the day of each event and submitted to the town within 7 days of the event or prior to the date of the next event, whatever happens first.
Can I interrupt here?
Sure.
It's logically inconsistent because there is no base study for ambient noise. So what would be comparing to what?
In 140-20, it is his requirement to set ambient noise. That's what the code states.
Ambient noise, not every day. Ambient noise established at, when we read it, what ambient noise consultant who did.
Nope, it says sound testing for compliance with noise standard is to be completed on the day of each event.
No, I understand.
So he has to set ambient on the day of the event.
It's incorrect. It's wrong.
Okay, I'm telling you what we got here. What is incorrect about it?
The ambient noise study has to be conducted within roughly 1 week. You want me to read it? What?
140-20.
No, I am reading what noise study consultant.
We don't have a noise study consultant on this.
I understand it, but you need to respect professional opinion and not come up with something that we.
Go ahead.
Need to be conducted during the time period when the event will occur. So if the event will be held on weekend days between 3 p.m. and 10 p.m., for example, then measurements should be done during the time period. It is not necessary that measurement be continuously done continuously over the 7-hour period. 10 to 20 minutes measurements can be conducted at say 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and 10 p.m. Location of the measurements should be at shared property line with sensitive receptors. For example, houses, school, healthcare facility. A measurement should be conducted with certain instruments, which I'm not going to list right now. And then rodeo or music concerts could not occur concurrent with the auto racing, because there was some opinion include auto racing noise. Therefore, ambient measurement must be conducted at times when racing is not occurring. So that, and this consultant did noise study for Arrow. So we introduced our own methodology, and we have another 2 applications in a row today that also have to do ambient noise study. And we introducing some kind of new method created our planning. Hey, it's my
Do you care to elaborate on number 8, Dave?
The board has, I mean, I've always thought this was a strange procedure because the board usually engineers or requires engineering at the outset without necessarily, this is really a compliance issue, right? And the board can detail compliance, how compliance is measured if it wants to, or just leave it to the CEO. What the board usually does in the case of a potential adverse impact, like runoff, for example, is actually better analogies. You engineer a solution and you require it as part of the site plan. In the case of runoff, you engineer, or you require, obviously, you require the engineering and replacement of a stormwater pond. In the case of noise, you would do a study on paper, typically, because that's all this is on paper. Although this particular applicant, we actually have the benefit of physical experience. Usually it doesn't happen. Usually, and you get sound people in, you engineer something, and then you require some mitigation, like sound fencing or something like that. So what we're talking about now is compliance. If the board wants to specify how compliance is measured, you have the ability to do so. If you're asking me how it should be done, number one, I'm not a sound expert. Number two, the worst or the most impactful sound generation has been removed from the application. So I think we've got a little bit of margin of safety there. But the answer is it can be done either way. Just pick one, but we're going to specify, we've got to decide, and then we put it down and then make it a condition.
But my point is, it's inconsistent with our previous practice.
Okay, but it's a different, That previous one was due to
It's create an argument, unnecessary argument going forward. Because it's measurement conducted by interested party, which is the owner of the
Okay,
property.
the question, Zorian, the question for the board is, do you want to specify the compliance mechanism going forward? If so, do you want to pick up Zorian's suggestion and go with the existing compliance mechanism for racing? Or do we want to go with the one that's specified here or something else? This is what we can do.
The one that's soaring in red, I just want was done for Applewood, Arrowwood, thank you.
Oh, it's not, it was not for the existing
No.
racing?
No.
Okay.
And that
You're
was-
reading,
and that
from the
was a-
Applewood site plan for
Arrowwood.
No, I'm reading opinion of the person who did studies there.
Right, so it has to do with
And
Arrowwood.
it's-
But our job as the planning board is to restrict compliance.
Oh, wait a minute, there's a big difference between this project and that project.
Exactly.
That project was a concert venue. This is not a concert venue. They
Well,
exempted.
as a practical matter, you're in a pretty rural area of the town, right? If you take an ambient noise level, let's say on a random Saturday morning, and if you take a random noise level, let's say 2 hours before their event, is it gonna be that much different?
It can be. Yes. Yes, it can be.
Yeah,
Well,
but you brought a rural area, it's a residential area. You know, it's affect residents.
It's up to the board, you know.
Dave, do you want to weigh in?
I was just gonna say in relation that, I hope this helps, but in relation to these conditions 7 and 8. So 7 just reaffirms what you have to do anyway, right? You have to
Correct.
follow that section of code.
Yep.
Which does legitimately say you gotta establish ambient noise level.
Correct.
It also says specifically, the guidelines to be used are New York State DEC Assessing and Mitigating Noise Impacts Program Policy, which we have looked at previously, which we do have methodological options in, right? Like, it's not, it doesn't say you have to do it this way.
That's correct.
It's very.
So
similar.
that may be
It's
why
very
you
similar.
see,
Very similar.
but correct. So they have to follow that according to code as stated by 7. 8, I think, is just trying to establish in these unique circumstances of these events, when do you want them to take the measurements?
Correct.
Right.
And when they need to be submitted by.
I also want to point out one.
So that's
tactical
all,
thing.
that's all 8's trying to do. If you want more, you'll need to think about adding it in.
I want to point out one tactical thing, and this may be the opposite of what the board has thought about. If you take the noise baseline during a particularly quiet period, let's say not associated with the event at all, let's say a Saturday morning, 3 weeks before or something like that, you create a stricter requirement if it's quiet than if it's not. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Because he's got a delta of 10 decibels. So if you start off with
As a
quiet
compromise, do it not 1 week, do it another week, you know.
it's just up to the board, whatever you want.
And remember, on a typical Friday night, hang on, but remember, on a typical Friday night, there is an approved use there for racing. That could
Racing
be-
is not part of this, should not be part of.
Racing can be
Ambient,
used
no.
as a definition of ambient noise, of course it can. It's a regular
Because-
item that's
because
happening in our community.
It's event, it's not and racing cannot be ambient for events that's conducted during the.
What Zorian is saying is you can't use the ambient from a racing event
Right.
as the baseline for.
Correct, but that is a part of our community is what I'm getting at.
We're not talking about racing, we're talking about what
Understand.
they're proposing, 4 different uses. So I'm okay with the day of whatever the event is. There is a time frame during that day or time frames during that day in which they do the ambient noise testing.
Let
And
me
then
ask you-
there's another period when the event is actually taking place, when they measure it again.
Correct.
And to see whether or not they're within the standard, which is 10 dBs over the ambient. That's, how else would they do it? They already have an established, I don't see why we need to establish the ambient for this site. We already know what the ambient is, it's
How do we know?
loud.
Ambient? But
They're
it's
gonna
not
do it that
ambient.
day, they're gonna do it that day.
It's
Well,
not
the
ambient.
Because I recall the 92 approval has a decibel maximum, right?
No, so
It
he is
didn't establish an ambient.
in the 19, he has to submit an annual testing that is, he pays for,
Right.
that the town specifies the date and it's ordered at the town.
Right, but there is a maximum decibel.
Yes,
It-
it's
it's
not
a
the ambient,
standard, right?
it's a maximum.
It's just a maximum of total,
Oh,
total, not
right.
ambient.
Which is different than the 5 and 10 delta that's in the code.
Correct.
By, you know,
And at that
by
time,
higher approval.
So for
David-
compliance purposes, we're gonna move on. So for compliance purposes, we want to vote that 8 is adequate on the timing of when this item needs to be turned in. Yes, sounds like that's, yes, Rick?
Yeah.
Do we want to vote on it or not? Okay, moving on. Number 9.
Can I, sorry,
Sure, that's okay.
6, I would just suggest in the discussion earlier on
number
in
1.
attendance to less than 50 vehicles, that it be more like the language in the
500.
500.
Or
That it be the language in the secret regulations.
Dave?
Parking,
A maximum.
It's
maximum
gotta,
parking,
correct, because that's the standard to, otherwise this
Right.
So
speaker designation.
Less than 500.
You're right, Dave.
The verbiage here says, all
Attendance.
activities and events authorized by this approval shall be limited in attendance to less than 500 vehicles.
Yeah, but the secret language is a facility with, it works the other way.
Based on how many people are in the town or something.
No, it's a number of parking spaces.
Right.
Yes, it does.
Based on the amount of people in the town.
but David's point, based on the number of people with our type of town, the maximum 500 parking. I read it earlier. That's the seeker standard. You can set up the conditions here however you want. They've already given us a site plan with 499 parking spaces, so we've typed it as an unlisted
Okay.
action.
So you want to update number 6, Dave, to reflect the seeker verbiage? Is that what you're saying?
I'll do that while you continue.
Yep.
Again, it doesn't, we have a little bit of leeway here. What is best for the town and for the enforcement? Is our CEO better for enforcing if it's 500 cars attending the event, or are we better off just leaving it at 500 parking spaces? You can do it either way. There's no.
I think for enforcement purposes, if I was the enforcer, I would go and count how many cars are there.
That's why it was drafted this way.
It's an
I agree.
activity
We don't
that,
have to do that.
But
it's an activity whose parking has to have parking for less than 500 vehicles. Is the language out of secret.
Well, but that's typically a site plan thing. I mean,
And I'm just saying,
I want it to
you
be,
predicated the whole seeker designation on that language.
All right, so
Yeah,
you worked on the
we-
language while we.
you're going to work on that language and we're going to come back to
okay, fair enough.
Can I just say something, we're going back to the ambient noise?
No.
and that, you know.
it. Sure, go ahead.
But there's this discussion between AM and PM, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, on a Saturday morning, you're gonna have a very low ambient.
Sure.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, your ambient is going to change approximately by 10 to maybe 15 dBs because people are out, they're
Lawn
driving,
mowing,
et cetera. So I can't tell you what is the best way.
Selena,
to do
you're also
No, but
setting
you're
up the
doing it
event.
during the day.
I mean, there's
Right.
gonna be people that said.
Well, but I just disagree with what you were saying by taking the measurement first.
So is
thing
there
in the
anything you
morning.
want to change in the decision?
No, but I just wanted to.
Okay, here we go.
Educate.
Number 9, applicant shall utilize soundproofing materials for the announcement booth so as not to amplify noise. PA horns shall be pointed downward and toward the spectator seating area to limit off-site noise. I believe you already do
Can
that.
I add something to this, please?
To number 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're talking about announcement here, movie theater, outdoor movie theater, which way speakers gonna face?
They might not use speakers, they might go with their cell. So
They might use the radio.
They
That's
might use
what
the
they said.
They may or they will not. That's what.
Well, if they were going to use the noise system in the facility, they have to comply with number 9, which we just read. Which is applicant shall utilize soundproofing materials for the announcement booth so as to not amplify noise. PA horns shall be pointed downward and toward the spectating seating area to limit off-site noise. So regardless of what he does, he has to follow number 9.
PA horns, speakers.
Yeah.
For the movie.
Yeah. Number 10, on non-race or event days, there shall be no racing or practice activities on the track or amplified sound of the site. Number 11, all activities and events shall comply with all provisions of the Town of Rochester Code, Section 140-35 for commercial events facilities. Number 12, with a finding by the planning board that this application is unlisted action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, all activities relevant to this approval shall be limited to attendance and associated off-street parking of less than 500 vehicles. Number 13, compliance with all provisions of the Town of Rochester zoning 140-20, general commercial and industrial standards, including standard for noise as stated in 140-20F. Number 14, prior to site plan application, the signature by the town planning board chair and prior to filing with the town clerk, the applicant shall provide an updated sketch plan meeting the requirement 40-45. The sketch plan shall be clearly dated and include the map information already provided by the applicant, as well as the identification of the preparer of the sketch plan and a blank signature block or similar space on the map for town planning board stamp and signatures of approval. Number 15, applicant shall maintain Ulster County Health Department potable water, food service, and septic approval, and shall apply to said department for any expanded approvals resulting from the events approved herein. Lighting shall not exceed 1,500 watt quartz lights placed at a maximum height of 40 feet, directed downward so as not to throw light on adjoining properties. Number 16, no parking shall be permitted on Whitfield Road. Number 17, in order to maintain air quality and traffic control, the layout and operation shall be as follows. 1, the ticket booth shall be away from Whitfield Road and deep into the site, and spectators shall park before purchasing tickets. 2, the operation shall include a traffic control person assisting entering and exiting vehicles before and after the races, respectively, to prevent backup on Whitfield Road. 3, applicant shall provide for the on-site separation of racing and spectator vehicles for the purpose of enhancing on-site vehicular circulation. Sorry.
I think what happened was you picked up some of the items from previous.
From previous approval.
Dave, you have any way on that?
We did use some blanks from previous approval, but we never ever thought it'd be applicable and useful here. I mean, what?
Right.
I think it's something that's useful.
No, there is no
because
racing.
you replace the word race with events.
With events, okay,
Correct.
thank you. Number 2,
Right.
events.
Although one of the things that they did bring up was BMX racing equipment.
That's still.
You're not gonna win that one. Yeah. All right, number 18, prior to the site plan application signature by the town planning board and prior to filing with the town clerk, the applicant should provide an updated sketch plan meeting the requirements of Town of Rochester 140-45. The sketch plan shall be clearly dated, including the map information already provided by the applicant. I think that's a duplicate. Yes, 14 and 18 are a duplicate. We're getting rid of 18. Okay, 19, as per Town of Rochester zoning 140-47, the planning board granted a waiver of the requirement of the submission of a map to scale. The waiver is subject to receipt of the sketch plan as required above. Number 20, any deviation from this decision or site plan shall render this approval null and void. Number 21, the expansion or change of use shall be applied for from the Town of Rochester Code Enforcement Office and Planning Board. 22, applicant shall comply with the New York State Uniform Fire Protection Building Code. 23, last but not least, all conditions of this site plan approval special use permit PB 1992-05 shall be complied with, even if more restrictive law than local law number 3 of 1987. General conditions. This approval is conditioned upon the applicant submitting all necessary final copies of the plans, reports, and documents to the Town of Rochester Building Inspector. The applicant shall present final plans for signature, which shall be entitled Final Site Plan and modified as condition. Number 2, this approval is further conditioned upon all other approvals which are currently required or any which may be determined in the future to be required in conjunction with the construction and or operation of this use being secured or renewed as applicable, and which are needed by the operation of federal, state, and local laws and regulations, whether or not noted above in the specific conditions of this resolution, including but not limited to Army Corps of Engineer, State Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Transportation, Department of Health, Ulster County Department of Health, Town of Rochester Board, in compliance with New York State Uniform Fire Protection Building Code. Should any permit approvals or any subsequent activities necessitate a change to the approval plot or contravene any subsequent activities necessitate a change to the approval plot or contravene any conditions here or any applicable code, the matter shall be referred to the planning board for consideration. Should any conditions imposed by other agency permits cause conditions to be in conflict, the more restrictive conditions shall prevail. I know that these are our normal conditions that we have on all of our applications, but I'm going to continue to read them. Number 3, the site plan is approved by the planning board shall be binding upon the applicant and any subsequent owner. Any changes from the approved site plan, the approved plan shall require resubmission and reapproval by the planning board. No deviation from the plan, reports, or other documents that form the basis for this approval are effective unless and until an amendment of this resolution is secured from the planning board in writing. The town may stop work on this project or revoke a building permit and or withhold a certificate of occupancy and seek any other additional relief as authorized by law if any term or condition of this resolution is violated.
Is it deleted? This part?
Say it again.
Should it be deleted? What occupancy are we talking about?
This is just our standard language that if he has a CO, it's one that could be revoked by the building inspector. Number 4, all fees regarding this application must be paid in full, including all application fees, other fees required by town code, and the fees of the planning board consultants, including all engineering, planning, and legal fees. Any bonds or other securities required by this resolution shall be submitted in a timely manner as required by the town code or building inspector. No building permit may be issued by the building inspector unless and until such fees have been paid in full, and such bonds or other security, if any, shall be filed with the town. 5, any bonds necessary for the performance of the work shall be in such form and in such amounts as required by the town board of trustees in consultation with the town engineer, highway superintendent, and town attorney. Lastly, 6, the owner's consent block shall be signed and dated by the owners following the date of last revision and prior to the chair signing the block. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants the authority to the chairman to certify that the conditions have been completed without further resolution and to sign and date the plat at such time. Effects of approval. This site plan approval and associated conditions shall be binding upon the applicant and all successive owners of the land so long as such use shall occur. This approval shall remain effective as an authorization to secure the required permits and establish the use for a maximum of 1 year from the date of approval, unless the applicant shall have submitted written requests, and the planning board shall adopt such a resolution granting an extension and provided the applicant has submitted proof of having diligently pursued implementation of the plan. Draft resolution was prepared by the chairman and read, discussed, and amended by the planning board. Can I have a
Before you vote.
motion?
I have one
I'm out of
question. Yeah, take a breath.
Yeah.
Did we ever finally vote and record in the minutes the waiver of the site plan requirement, site plan submittal requirements?
We authorized that the 1992 site plan needed to be signed by the applicant to confirm that nothing has changed on the site, which he did.
Under 140-47, in order to grant the waiver that we talked about, we need to do it and to state the reason for it and to record it in the minutes.
Okay.
And so if that wasn't previously done, and we've actually mentioned it in the conditions here, what I'd like to suggest is that we put in one of the things that we're doing here to grant that waiver, basically part of the secret negative declaration, and then afterwards to add a paragraph explaining that we're doing the waiver and explaining why, which as I understand is because they have a previous site plan, and because they eliminated some of the more impactful potential uses.
So could you give us the verbiage on that? Waiver authorized.
Whereas the planning board authorized under section 140-47, I mean, I can correct it.
Yeah. Well, we need to vote on it, so.
Okay, whereas, I'm sorry, be it resolved, the planning board hereby grants a waiver under section 140-47, site plan submittal requirements due to the existence of a previous site plan and the removal of the original proposal to have concerts.
We have a motion as moved.
Was there any other
Wait.
reason for the waiver?
I have 2 comments.
On the waiver, Helena?
No,
Let's stick with the waiver.
okay, the waiver.
So I think what you want to do is make the approval contingent upon Dave's comment.
No, we're putting this.
We're gonna vote on this right
We're
now.
gonna put this
It's going
in
in the minute.
as, well, it's not the minutes, we're gonna put this in the resolution as a grant of the, we're granting the waiver now,
Okay. As one of the-
formally, because we hadn't done,
As
it
one of the conditions.
hadn't been recorded in minutes, and
Okay.
the law requires that.
I
So
need
you're
a,
looking for a motion.
I need a motion as moved by the attorney.
I'll make a motion to
Can you
include
restate,
what
can you
Dave.
restate?
Granting a waiver under section 140-47 for site plan submittal requirements because of the existence of the previous approved site plan and the removal of the music event, the concert, the live concerts.
You adding to that, Dave?
I was just noting, I thought the discussion related to this waiver was also that there was no permanent new structure.
That's correct.
Constructed, right?
Yes.
So it's,
So we're accepting the site plan because nothing's changed.
the only things proposed are temporary,
Structures.
non-permanent
Got
structures,
it.
right?
Okay, so we got a lot going on there. I have a motion from Rick
I'll make the motion.
based on the 2 Daves. I have a second. Second from Cindy, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great.
You need the verbiage from Dave on.
Yep, those two will finalize. Okay, now Helena,
Okay, I would change adopted January eighth to today's date.
thank you.
And then also the, materials review.
Yep, can we
some of
add that site plan that?
Well, so there's an error, site plan dated 11/27/2027. So that's incorrect, and, you know, any of the new submissions that.
Thank you. Okay, we ready to, vote on this now?
With,
You know,
I'll make a motion to vote on the,
Make a motion to
approve this with all of the adjustments that have
Yeah, I
been
have,
suggested.
I have a motion from Rick. I have a second from Anne Marie. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Zorian is opposed. And Peter is. Okay. Mr. Palmer, Melissa, thank you. We will be in touch with you with the next steps. You're all set. Thank you. Yes.
Facilitated on Partner 4.
Thank you.
Holler at me.
Yeah, I'll make the adjustment what I can. I will make his corrections and then I'll send it to you. And then you can have it needed, then I'll print it out. We'll send it back and forth for a couple of days.
You had a double, right? I read it all 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, for members of the public for Ackworth Speedway, you guys can take that outside and we're gonna go on with, Planning Board 2024-7, which is the lot line revision for Terrapin Preserve and Bruce Bell, which I believe is by Bill Eggers. Mr. Eggers, I saw him outside. He could be in the crowd. No, we'll do it. We could use a minute, right? We could use a minute. Yes. How about a bathroom break quick, guys? Give you a minute or 3. I'm gonna go find Bill Eggers.
You can go right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So. Bill Eggers, where are you?
Just don't step over my file when I go get that.
Nadine, let's go.
Wait, we're skipping?
We're gonna go to DeJager.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, welcome back.
Thanks.
Back to the show.
Good.
Oh, never mind. Bill's coming.
You got
I called him. Sorry. You could sit next to him. It's just a lot line. Come on, Bill. Waiting on you. Ow. Make it the final revision. That's all right. Greg, I had right down here, right here at the end.
Next
to Anne Marie. Okay, here we go. Is everybody ready?
No.
Okay, 2024-07, a lot line revision, which is actually a lot line deletion for Terrapin Preserve and Bruce Bell. Representative is Bill Eggers from Medenbach and Eggers. Bill, the applicant's proposing the elimination of 3 lot lines to combine the parcel into one large 103.29 acre parcel. We've seen your map. Can you give us a little narrative quick on what's going on here? We got maps coming to you.
Yes.
Yeah, there's, I said, 3 parcels, 2 of them were acquired by separate deeds by the previous owner.
Okay.
And so, we just had no reason to keep them separate.
Okay.
One of them was acquired just to provide access to the road.
Okay.
And that little narrow strip, they got that just because there was no frontage on the road prior to that, so we got that. And then this other piece he picked up, which also provides them with additional access to the road. So now I've got a driveway and I can break it up.
Great.
So, this one's for one to one.
Okay, so Bill, this looks real good. The only thing I had is there really stone walls all the way around this thing? I mean, that is beautiful.
It's
Wow.
much.
Wow,
Pretty much.
it's like it was meant to be.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it was all one big piece.
Yeah.
In one big piece.
And I have a,
So I got a,
yeah, go ahead.
does the Medical House Creek, that I see it on the map, does it flow all the way through the property or is it just, does it start or end there?
Yeah, it flows through, right? It comes, on the left side of the property, about midway up, it comes in, and then it goes out in the right corner.
That's not really a requirement. The lot line,
We
would
don't
be
know,
question.
all the way through the property.
Bill, what is this? Preserve, is it a forest preserve or? is-
That's just what the name of the LLC is.
We call it the LLC. He has a house, just in the subdivision, just to the northwest of here.
So not on the property?
No, it has, it's all completely vacant. He's got some little trails and things to it.
Okay, just wondering. Motion to certify the lot line, someone?
I make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Zach and Anne Marie, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. You're a voter on that one. You're not out. No, you don't recuse. You're not a voter. Okay, Bill, we're all set. We're gonna see you later today? Okay, we'll see you a little later. Okay, Nadine. You're on the clock. Is that what they say in the NBA draft? You're on the clock. Just kidding. Give me a second to get caught up. Okay. So in this application, Peter Nelson is recusing himself? No. Yes, he is. I'm telling you, I'm not asking. Helena is not stepping in on this application. She has not been included in it since the beginning. So it'll just be the remaining members. For Terrapin, he was in and she was not. That's correct. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Okay, Nadine, give us the 30-second overview on DeJager, please.
Yeah, so at the January meeting, we did go through the draft resolution and conditions for the DeJager subdivision approval. One of the last remaining items that the board was looking for more information on was the language for the HOA, the bylaws, which the board has been working diligently on reviewing.
Thank you.
With the applicant's attorneys on. So, Mr. Gordon can definitely speak to it, but there have been significant revisions made to get the language, the way the board has indicated that there's no disturbance construction in the conservation areas and how to preserve the conservation areas. So what we're looking for tonight, and just to back up a little bit. So in the meantime, while these things were happening since January, we have revised the plans to correspond with the TDC requirements. They asked that those be shifted slightly. We've updated the SWIP to reflect the reduction to 10 lots, the road. We just reduced the disturbance to the Army Corps wetlands. So, and we've addressed the health department comments. So we submitted a package just the other day, on Friday, with the new plan that when the board has the discussion this evening and is ready to make their conditional approval, that's the map. The last revised date of February 14th, we're looking to get approval on that map that reflects those changes. The SWIP has been submitted to CPL. It's one of the conditions that they will do their review and we'll work out the technical details. So everything's been moving along. And the HOA has been submitted and reviewed by Mr. Gordon, and hopefully, I believe he's comfortable with making the recommendation to the board for acceptance and have that discussion.
So Dave, hang on just a second. So Dave, can you give us the last 30 days of what you have been going through and give us the speed as to where we are today? So that, as we've asked Greg to come, he's done a lot of updating. He has some things that are still conditions of approval that you need to go through, but nothing that is pressing. So Dave, give us, where are we today?
Well, I think where we are today, that we have agreed upon drafts of 3 major documents that we were looking at, including the one that did not exist as of, I think, like October of last year, which the board was concerned about, which, Rick in particular was calling the HOA, which is really the bylaws of the homeowners, because the HOA is just an organization. This would be the bylaws of the HOA, and we pass that around. As we stand here now, I want to say basically the process has been difficult. It's taken a very, very long time. Some of these documents, the conservation easement go back to the middle of last year and even before. And it's been surprising how many back and forths we needed. Drafts came in with, for example, the wrong town, the wrong county in them. It's clear that previous drafts were used and put in. And so it was notable how that either there was not that much attention paid or just certain, I don't know what was going on. I'm only raising this because some of the later discussions that really up the last 2 weeks over the conservation easement, which was one of the earliest documents we were dealing with, raising some eyebrows that I want to talk to the board about. One of the things that happened either last week or 2 weeks ago, kind of runs together, is that the proposal from the applicant came to eliminate what most people would consider to be the absolute core provision of a conservation easement, especially this one, which is that there's going to be no building on the property. They took that out entirely, and I asked why, and the explanation that came back was very, very odd. It was essentially that they wanted to. I'm going to try to tell you this. They wanted to
Have the ability.
They were willing to surrender the actual ability to construct on the conservation land, but they wanted to preserve the right to do so because they viewed that the right to do so would have certain zoning benefits in terms of things like bulk calculation and stuff like that. I'd never heard of it before and I thought it was odd. And then when I drafted a provision to sort of do that, they agreed with it and then submitted a word that threw some of it into question. And the bottom line here that I'm trying to raise, in addition to this, it may be just a lack of attention, was that it appeared to me as if they were trying to reserve certain abilities to build after this is approved. And once we made it clear that there was no building, that there could be no building on the conservation land, which is defined in the conservation easement as the property. That's a little bit different. Usually the property is the whole property. In this case, the property was what couldn't be built on. I am still left with the question in my mind as to whether they intend or are hoping to preserve the ability to build on the subdivision. There's a non-conservation land. And so this is unique. I've never seen, usually you just assume that we're going to, unless there's a chance, sometimes the board will say for any type of subdivision, no further subdivision. If one of the lots you're creating has a big, the woods in the back, they'll say. And so I'm putting it up to the board. I don't know how to interpret this body language, but I'm reporting it to you because of I viewed it as
What area?
Hang on, I'm gonna weigh in after you're done.
I have
something.
I viewed it as strange, and so I'm reporting it to you. I'm not necessarily recommending anything, but it's out there. I think we've nailed down that they're not going to build any more on the conservation area, but from the nature of these edits and the way that they sort of kind of came in sort of backdoor, and like I said, wiping out the entire paragraph on that thou shalt not build. And if they didn't like something, if I was them, I would have replaced it with different language. But they didn't. I actually had to draft new language, and even at that, it was surprisingly difficult and surprising that the communication was not as solid as it might have been. So I'm just throwing it out there to you guys. I'm not necessarily recommending anything, but I'm reporting that in case there's a concern about any of this going forward.
In conversation today with the attorneys, as well as you saw on my response, as well as you did.
Mark said, okay, go ahead.
I got my slapper out, and so we need to get back on focus here. We were using words like itself rather than properties, and what that definition means. And I sort of sent a nastygram to make sure that that is going to be clearly defined, and we can't come to an agreement. We're just not going to talk about it today, and we'll move on to the next.
And that was the mechanism that nailed it down today.
But we finished it, is what I'm getting at. Sure.
Make it clear that it opens the door to a little confusion, that the final document does in fact
Correct.
include that no build.
On the conservation land.
On
Yes.
the, right, the preservation conservation easement agreement itself.
I think what Dave was saying is it took us a while to get.
It, oh, agree, there's no doubt,
And that's not your fault.
started
Well,
with
it
that,
also,
but
they need to be fair though, it raised the question in my mind as to whether they were trying to sort of slouch toward a failure to nail down the no build and to build possibly wherever they might find an opening. And
You know,
get-
I have to say, you know, unfortunately, the attorneys were not very present through the entire process. So to know the importance of, you know, what had been discussed all along, you know, that was the discussion all along, that was the agreement all along, no build, no, you know, so, and even though it was outlined in the draft resolution that I submitted to them, but like you said, the final does represent what the board is looking to restrict as far as any other things that.
So that's
that are
my
in
next-
here,
that's my
cars and
next-
Motor vehicles, blah, blah, blah.
So-
It's-
To be
it's
fair,
the
the bottom
language
line is, I think
We're
we're
there.
there now in terms of the documents that all three documents are based
I
on.
wanna be-
I'm gonna do my best imitate, or try to do my best imitation of Uncle Joe. You know who Uncle Joe is.
Let's keep it professional.
Nothing I say has anything to do with you, because I know that it's all involving lawyers, all the problems that have arisen over the last 2 months, 3 months. Nor
Fair-
you, because
fair
I know.
enough.
18 months.
Go for it.
What I have to say is, I don't know, there's no way that I'm approving this tonight, because there are some items, that we spent, most of this board spent a lot of time on December 4th in a workshop meeting going through in great detail. Some of which are in here, but a lot of which have not appeared in here, or I haven't been able to find them. The reason I couldn't find them is we got these final documents 4 o'clock today, which is like, give me a break. So if nothing else, and again, this has nothing to do with you, you're not late, the attorneys are late, their attorney, not you. So,
It took me a couple of weeks to get.
so there's no way I'm voting for anything.
Well, I think what I want to do tonight is I want to go through, Greg has done a revision on his decision, him and his team. I'd like to go through that to make sure that we are solid on those items, and if we have changes, we can get them to Greg ahead of time, number one. Number two, I'd like for you to bring your concerns that we have from the December workshop meeting to Dave, and he can pull those items as we're looking at them to make sure that they either meet our concerns or don't meet our concerns and we have more work to do, number two. Number three, I think that we have come a long way on this application. We've been working on this for a long period of time. And I feel like we have the gist of the items that we want to get through. And I think that we should start clearing them in our mind, that we have items that are satisfied so that Greg can cross those off of his list and we can come down to a better defined list, if there is one, of what is still outstanding. And here are those small items. Right now, we have a pool of items that we need to start checking off the boxes that we're happy with what we received. I don't care if that takes 10 minutes or 3 hours. I think we need to put the time in and go through those individual items and let our attorney and Greg identify whether those things are in here and you're happy with them or you're not. Because Rick makes a great point with, we sat here for 4 hours to do a workshop meeting and went through these items, and if there's something missing, we're not doing anybody any.
Well, it may not be missing, but I can't find it.
That's, we
The
need to identify
documents,
them.
I couldn't read through them in an hour that I had.
Understood.
This meeting. I do want to make sure, thank you for your information as to your concern with, are we absolutely sure, the way it's worded now, in this document, that there's absolutely no instance where they would come back and try to build something in the.
Oh, one of the things that I felt was that I think Nadine is probably correct that it was just a question of intention, but giving people credit for having the proper level of attention and care, I came away concerned that they could try something if they thought that it wasn't being looked at, and that's unfortunate.
So are you sure that your verbiage that you told?
I'm
me
sure the
on,
document
it will
is where
prevent
we need
them
to be.
from coming back and saying, well, you know what, we recalculated
No.
the bulk and this and that, and we can put another 2 lots on this.
You should have read my email today.
The document, the conservation easement document is where it needs to be, other than the fact that as Nadine and I exchanged today, we still don't have, meets and bounds for the, it's just a picture on a map, and you can nail that down.
Okay. That's pretty important.
This is now a functional conservation easement. Under any other circumstances, there'd be no question about its terms as it stands now, other than the fact that we did change the verbiage in the critical paragraph, but it basically says, whereas normally you would say, in fact, the original draft did say, the grantor gives up their rights to develop this property. When they pulled it out, and I made the amendment, I said, no building shall occur on the property. So I made it much more physical and direct rather than a question of
So
right.
you got what you
Greg,
wanted.
so
Well, I got what we.
I haven't been looking at those documents in that sense. But
course.
bioretention area 1B and bioretention area 1C and the subsurface disposal system for lot 3 are in the conservation. So would that mean they can't build those?
Yes.
They can't build them.
We have.
Well, they can't, we have to,
we authorize them because of the density bonus.
Well, no.
But I'm saying,
What it actually says is except what the grantor is specifically allowed to build under paragraph, this is paragraph 5.
okay.
Except what the grantor is specifically allowed to build under paragraph 4, no building is allowed.
Okay.
So check paragraph 4 to see if that's what they're allowed to construct.
And I would just add quickly that this in zoning under conservation areas and easements.
It does.
These things are allowed in
Yeah.
to be constructed in there and then the easement deducted. So, but, and I do just want to add to Rick that we're not asking for you to, push anything through. What we're asking is, and we're not even asking for any of the conditions to be changed, even though we've been working to address these draft conditions. Because this doesn't mean that the planning board as a whole, or, however it is, but that you cannot still, look at these documents because there are conditions that these documents are completed according to these conditions, that this is accepted, and the town board has to accept it. So it's not like these things, if you give the conditional approval, then nobody else is gonna look at them and it doesn't need any more approval because they still do. There's still the condition in that resolution that says, these things need to be submitted to and approved by, and whatever the agency is.
You have a million other people involved.
Oh,
So,
I know that.
that.
I know that, but specific items that we said we wanted to.
Yeah, so let's go over them. Let's not
Before
wait
you
long.
do, I have one other point I want to make on the document, and this goes to the homeowners association bylaws, which was the last document really to be generated by the applicant, quite late in the process. And because it was the last one, because the applicant just often their attorneys weren't paying that much attention, they cribbed a lot of documents. There were a number of things that needed to be corrected. I spent a lot of time on this, and at the end, after I significantly marked it up, there were still some provisions that were, in my view, didn't mesh together quite well. But I pointed it out to the applicant and I basically told them, it's up to you to deal with it. And in particular, the indemnity provisions for the board members of the HOA, they had like 2 different paragraphs that were taken from different places and kind of read differently. And I just said, look at this. And also there was a check signing paragraph that required two board members to sign checks when I think there's only going to be 3 members on the board. There's 10 houses in the whole thing. So I said, look at this, figure out what you want, make sure they're consistent, but there's no final draft, and there may not be, and because I don't know how much attention they're going to pay, but they haven't paid very good attention so far. So the question for the board is whether you would have wanted me to go even farther and nail that down. I didn't view it as necessary. I thought that the HOA board members, if they don't like the indemnity provisions, they will change the bylaws. That this is not a permanent thing. It can easily be changed to manage the organization. The point is, we do have an organization. We do have bylaws. They are real, but they are, in my view, not perfect. They could use more tweaking. But I did not want to spend any more of anybody's time for me to be further drafting. And I just said, here's what I think you need to do. Go fix it. And that's the current status today, because obviously, we went right up to the wire, and that's where
So the HOA can make changes, but they can't make changes to the conservation.
No, the conservation easement is a permanent protected
And they can't make changes to the declaration.
Correct.
Well, The declaration creates easements, and those easements, first of all, again, you can't really change, and second of all,
Okay,
you don't
so
want,
the
I mean,
answer is
you've
no,
got a
they can't
drainage
change.
easement, it's gotta stay there.
The HOA, they can do whatever they
The
want.
HOA is, it's how they run it, so that if the indemnity provisions for the board members are less than perfect, they can go back and fix those if they don't like it, and they probably should. That's the status of it, I just want to let you guys know.
So do you want Greg to go through the stuff that he?
Nope. Cindy?
I have one question for Dave. When I read through, and like Rick said, we got this really late, but on the final conservation easement, I don't know if this is normal or not, but number 16, extinguishment, just kind
Of the easement?
of the easement, I'm not really liking that.
Yeah, let me take a look. It doesn't sound.
Extinguishment. If circumstances arise in the future that make the purpose of the preservation conservation easement established by this easement agreement impossible to accomplish, then this easement agreement may be extinguished or determined or terminated only by a court of competent jurisdiction and or in accordance with the laws of the state of New York.
Yeah, Cindy, you almost have to do that because we don't know what the world is gonna look like in the year 2500, right? And suppose it turns out that we need to build a military facility of some sort, and that's the only place in New York State. There are,
Good, that's good interpretation.
there are,
That's why
you
you're,
know,
I've never seen a conservation easement of this type before.
you would
So
hope
if there's
that
a military base
we get to
coming-
a court, if there is not a good reason to avoid the ecological protection here, that wouldn't happen,
Okay.
but you can void easements, we cannot have permanent restrictions on the use of land if the world has changed so much that it doesn't make any sense anymore. So,
okay.
I hear you.
So next, Greg, do you have anything other than the decision that you have concerns about before we get started on these reviews? Because I don't think you haven't started reviewing the covenants or the easements or the HOA, so we're gonna
No.
leave you out of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're set.
Yeah, so we took a quick look at the
Yep.
responses to what they provided on Friday.
Great.
We're not done reviewing those, but we basically have no significant issues with
Good.
the response.
Hey, Greg, are you looking at the ecological protection that's built in, the specifics of the ecological protection that's built into the easement? Because I'm not, we never did.
No, I have not been looking at specifics of the ecological
Like, is
protection
the habitat,
yet.
is the right habitat being preserved in the right way, that sort of thing?
No, not really. I can, but I hadn't
Yeah,
looked at that
well,
specifically as.
This
to-
board has never looked at, and I'm not competent to do that. This board has never looked at that document with that framing, so, yeah.
I mean, we can make that as a condition of your review, correct, Greg?
Well,
You mean what's in the preservation and conservation easement agreement? There's some language on.
Well, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, the point, the board wants to, the board has certain, you know,
Restraints.
interests in preserving this land. And and the applicant has reserved certain rights, like to build, you know, pathways and other things. I just want to make sure that the proper areas that are being protected are being protected, so that it's not, you know, damaging.
If I may, therein lies the problem with the town code, which says that it should be maintained by a competent third
party.
Or the town board itself, or the HOA, and they chose. The
The
applicant
point
chose
is
the
that
The fox
HOA.
guarding that house.
You can view it as a process issue, but again, I'm viewing this board as a permitting board, and I'm viewing it as a permit issue. When we do a conservation easement to preserve land, and they're saying, okay, that's fine, but we want to preserve we want to be able to build, you know, recreational pathways, and we want to maybe be able to build a stormwater basin, we want to be able to build this and that, and do and have certain things over time. The question is, are the habitats being protected properly? You know, I cannot review it for that purpose, and this board never has, and that's why I'm saying.
This board doesn't have the competency.
Well, great, that's where our engineer can come in and help us with that, that's why I asked the question. If this conservation easement competently preserves the ecological values, that is the point of the conservation subdivision.
But what you're asking is for the things that are allowed in the conservation easement, for them to do in the conservation easement, is that protective? Because
Well, allowed to do and also things that they're not permanent. I mean, they can't construct other than these things, but they can have a parade there or something like that. They can have, you know, they can do things on the land.
I have not looked at the conservation easement as to what it is that they can do. that
Yeah,
any conservation easement.
Let me put it this way. This board and the applicant,
Yeah.
in proposing and approving a conservation subdivision, has an interest in ensuring the ecological integrity going forward of the conservation lands.
Yes.
And the only document that's going to do, well, the subdivision approval is going to do that as conditions, but the most basic condition is the conservation easement. That is the document that embodies the
And the
protection.
conservation easement allows them to do certain things in these.
Can or can't.
Allows them to do, it tells them they can't do, tells them they can do, what the area, like.
Because I have not seen that, so I'd have to look at that.
Well, it's in the easement, and if it's not, we need to put it there.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah,
say-
because it's-
He's saying he hasn't looked at that.
I haven't provided, the document you're talking about was circulated today. I haven't seen it.
Today.
Okay.
Right. And it does, does talk about, no mining, excavation, no dredging, no. removal
Right,
of
so what we
soil,
would do is
blah,
we
blah,
would
blah,
want as a condition, we'll talk about that when we get to our conditions,
Definitely.
is that Greg reviews that and it's to his satisfaction,
Sure.
town engineer's satisfaction.
It might come out to be, despite the fact that you can build a recreational pathway or a sidewalk or something like that, you can't build it here because this is where the vernal pool is. It could be something like that, right?
That's why-
We weren't asking.
That's why a competent third party should be the one.
Well, you're talking about enforcement.
We don't have that.
I'm talking about permitting.
Okay,
It's about the permitting.
so Rick, why don't you go through your list of concerns from the December workshop? Dave is gonna pull up the documents as you're going through them to make sure that we have
And I have some recommendations of where some of this stuff should go.
those items on them. Yeah, okay, so what document are you on first?
All right, so, no, I'm not gonna go through the documents, I'm gonna go through
The
actual
list, there you go,
comments.
go ahead.
So one of the first comments and where members of the board, I think everything that I'm gonna mention, this board agreed with.
Yep.
There was one item in there, no homeowner shall fill any swimming pool above or below ground that requires an excess of 2,000 gallons of water from the home water supply. So they can't fill a swimming pool.
Have to have a third party
They'll
come
have
fill
a
it.
third party.
Yep, okay.
And I think that should be included in
Number 7, wasn't it? Or 8?
number 8 in the declaration of private road utility drainage and maintenance agreement. It's number 8 in that section. It says community restrictions and covenants. So there's a covenants that go up to letter I, and this should be a letter J, saying that if you're filling a swimming pool,
It needs to be filled by a third party and not from your hose. Number 8,
so it's number 8.
got it? Go ahead.
And I don't know where this one is. We did all agree with this. That the construction to the time of the construction of the infrastructure and of the entire project, that it be managed by what we call the clerk of the works.
Yep.
Is that one of the conditions?
That has been added directly to the site plan and conditions on the site plan.
So it must be in our conditions.
It's on in our conditions and it's added to the site plan. So when we check it with Nadine,
It's the same thing for the annual report on
It's
the
right
HOA.
here. There are new notes. I want to say on sheet 11, that there was new notes specific to the town of Rochester requirements. It didn't include, and you'll get to it, but construction just from this out.
one stage,
For the work.
annual report.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's in this.
Yes, those things have been added. Yep.
That's why they're not in here, Rick.
What document
So-
are you referring to?
We're not yet. We're going over the workshop meeting notes that we took during the workshop. We have no documents to reflect.
What was the date?
The workshop meeting was December.
December 4th, 23.
wasn't
Sheet
there-
11, those have been added.
Where does it say, Dave, this is probably a question for you. Where does it say, one of the questions that came up, where does it say that the HOA is responsible for the maintenance of the SWIP and all of its related appurtenances? As a function of the HOA, is that,
The declaration.
As in the final declaration number.
again, part of this is that we got it at 4:00, so
Yeah.
it could all be there.
Well,
just didn't read it.
exactly.
Paragraph 10, drainage maintenance costs.
Number 10.
Yeah, number 10 in the declaration.
Yeah.
Paragraph 10.
Number 10, common road and drainage maintenance costs. So Rick, this might handle two of your items, the Peninsula Lane concern and the HOA concern.
Yeah, the next one was, we talked about Peninsula Lane. How is Peninsula Lane going to be maintained by
That's in here.
the homeowners association for this project? And that's in that section. Question one. Yes.
And that's already outlined in the existing road maintenance agreement for Peninsula Lane. When this is subdivided, all those homeowners get added to that road maintenance agreement
For Peninsula Lane.
for Peninsula Lane.
Actually-
It's already outlined.
This is, you know what, I'm gonna read the first sentence of paragraph 10. This is in the declaration. So this declaration creates all of the easements other than the conservation easements. So particularly the drainage easements and the road easements, the two ones that involve them. And so the first sentence says, in accordance with the bylaws and rules and regulations of the association, meaning the HOA, the owners of each lot shall bear an equal 1/10 share of the costs associated with the maintenance, repair, replacement, if and when reasonably necessary, and general upkeep of common roadway easement area and the drainage easement area, so as to keep and maintain the common roadway and the drainage systems at all times in good condition, state of repair by the association.
Good. So it's in there.
Yeah.
We talked about this, that there should be a section added. Again, I think it's the section 8. It's in the same.
Go ahead.
that same
I'm with you, Rick.
That something should be added that says, and I forget what verbiage we came up with, but no use of any four-wheel or two-wheel vehicles or the creation of any kind of a
Motorized or electric.
motorized pathway going through the conservation easement is allowed.
That should be in the conservation easement.
It is.
Okay, so they can't,
What page, Nadine?
they can't have BMX races in the conservation easement.
Oh, they can do that up the road now.
Number 3, prohibited uses and restrictions.
What number are they needing?
It's number 3, so on sheet 3, it starts.
Prohibited uses.
Yep,
Yeah,
I
there's
see
a
it.
whole section.
And it is number 3,
Buildings, no buildings is B.
no hunting, Rick, excavation, mining, dredging, no clearing of trees.
Side, dumping, I know I saw in here about motor vehicles or somewhere in here.
Yep, here it is. J, second to last sentence. Town planning board including farming, active or passive recreational use, passive recreational use and similar activities that will effectively preserve open space in the existing landscape character prior to the sale of any lots or dwelling units in the subdivision. It's a little
Yeah, but
loose.
there was
That's
something,
loose.
there was something restricted, no placing.
We're gonna just make sure that's there, Nadine, because that was something that we all wanted to see.
Yeah, I don't know the exact verbiage, but no use of.
No four-wheeler
electric,
track races.
no Four-wheel, two-wheel, whatever, needs to be real specific. This says passive, that's a little bit more accurate.
Agreed.
All right, so that needs to be in
Okay.
there. And then there was another set, well, there was a concern with whatever the applicant can do in the way of recreation facilities.
Oh, right.
That, both in the conservation, in all the easements, the one along the round down and the main one and the rest of the property,
What they can do.
what they can do and how they can do it and which approvals they need. So I think we agreed to some verbiage that said they have to get all the appropriate permits from the appropriate permitting
Agencies.
DEC, this plan.
Army Corps, yep.
Whatever. But it
Israel-
gets
Israel
to
commented-
your comment before. What prevents them from building something? What can they build in the easement, in those conservation easements?
And where?
Well, we know that they want to put something on the ground down. They probably want to have a canoe launch or something down there.
Picnic table.
I saw that line, there is language about that in here. Oh, goodness.
That was on,
But it also applies to the creation of recreation structures in the conservation easement. We had a discussion about they might want to put jungle gym. or
Park.
something.
Yeah, so it is, right, it's under, section.
What document,
4,
Nadine?
The preservation conservation easement page.
By the way, to make it simple, the structure of this, is that section 3 is the prohibitions of uses in the conservation area. And section 4 is what they're allowed to build in the conservation area. And section 5 is that general prohibition that I mentioned, thou shalt not build. So, if you want to look at the core of the protection, that's where it's gonna be, and we may, may want to have more specifics or whatever.
Nadine, what number, not page?
So it's 4F.
4F.
Grantor, its successor general signs, including
Yep.
acknowledgement to the grantee, is homeowners association reserves
Oh,
the right
that's
to
right.
construct and install community recreation area, including but not limited to picnic tables, gazebo, dock, unmarked out sheds, boat storage, structure, or non-permanent structures within the conservation area south. For the use of the lot owners and HOA as a recreation area and access to Gondar Creek. Any improvements in construction or installation of such structure shall be subject to approval of the town of Rochester or a New York State agency having jurisdiction over such construction or installation of any structure. Because I know we did talk about, if they were to build a dock.
Gazebo, a dock, yeah.
As well, a dock, we definitely need to do it because it is
On the wrong
I don't know
state
if it-
designated street.
Town of Rochester Planning Board should actually say the Town of Rochester building, but should add the building department in there.
The building department would would only enforce what we authorize. So if they wanted to put a shed or something down there, we would need to authorize that. And then they would enforce it.
So let's just carry this through to
Sure.
what is probably gonna happen. Everything gets built, 10 houses get built,
Mhm.
and then they say, okay, down by the Rondout Creek where we have that conservation.
We want to put
We wanna put a yada, 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 yada.
they gotta come back.
They gotta come back to us first, or they have to go to the.
Yeah,
building
basically, it's like a site plan.
No, it would come back to us for site plan because they would be amending what they have, because what they currently have on the plan is nothing. So if they wanted to add a shed, they're gonna need our approval, and then we will send that to code enforcement for their enforcement.
So does that also apply to anything in the other areas of all the conservation areas?
Well, it includes everything in the house. So if they're, everything in the overall site plan, if they want to put 10 houses at the minimum square footage, and then one person, house number 4 wants a shed, they gotta come back to us.
So to Dave's question before.
That's
Really? No,
That's not true.
It says specifically. For sheds, gazebos, or is that only in the conservation?
That's the point.
Okay, okay.
The word property, this applies to the property
Okay,
is the conservation area. In the conservation easement, the other declaration applies to the whole thing, but this is the conservation.
That's what we were talking about earlier today.
This governs the conservation area. That's why I said, I'm not 100% convinced that, I don't know what they're gonna wanna do in the area that we subdivided. The body language is so questionable, but this does nail down to the conservation area as much as it's nailed down in terms of the black and white. They knows they can't build new houses, and 4 and 5, or 3 and 4 tell us what they specifically can't do and then also what they can do.
So if they, so they've always identified the fact that they want to put nature trails in the conservation area.
It's allowed in 4, I would think.
It's 4, right?
It's an authorized use or ability to use that.
Yeah, so, and that's why we even put in detail for how they would be constructed, so that's.
Look at 4B.
You want me to read it out loud?
Yeah.
I suppose I have somewhat of the same concern that you had when they started addressing some of the language.
Mhm.
So they could put in pathways and all that, all right, nature trails. But if they wanted to put in something metal structures, metal walkways, or they wanted to put in a bathroom facility in the middle of the
Conservation.
Yeah, but
conservation.
it's more, listen, 4 is basically boilerplate. If I told you to go into a law office, with no windows and sit down and draw up a conservation easement, you do something like this, this is a good document. But now applied to a piece of property, it's just like kicking the tires. Same as you kick the tires, see if the air comes out of it. Is this going to protect property X? Is there something here that there's a problem? Is there a migrating endangered species? Is there a particular area like a vernal pool that
Shouldn't we want everything that they do in the conservation area, anything to come back to this board?
really? Like if the nursery school goes out to have a play date on Friday morning?
No, but if they construct it, and
Talking about physical.
which would then give us the ability to
But
say,
for
well,
them to construct, they have to come back to us.
Well, that's
something that's not in, as a, they can't
Well,
put,
nature paths, I don't.
Nadine already off, she already
That's
provided.
already
Even
part
if-
of the site plan, that's already been proposed in the site plan,
You
even
have the
though
nature paths in there already?
there's the general location, it may change, but we do show.
And she
no
shows what
A-
it's made of.
Let me put it to you this
Yeah,
way,
show detail.
even if they did, I would still want to signal the things that we care about now. For instance, Greg may come back if, or, you know, biologists, whatever, looking at this may come back and say, you know what, this is great, but let's do some more things. They don't do anything within 50 feet of the Rondout Creek. They don't do anything within 50 feet of any designated wetland. They don't do anything anywhere near a vernal pool. Okay, if there's a stand of old forest, they, you know, nothing, you know, only take down a certain, you know, you may want to look at the land, look at what we're preserving, because it's valuable. This is why we're doing this. And say, there are certain things here. It helps the future person design the HOA, design what they're going to do. If we say, this, we really care about this meadow, we can go ahead and construct a
So
slip.
so you're agreeing with me that we should be able to pass on, or if not, get somebody who has the competency to pass on the kinds of stuff that they're doing in the conservation use. So suppose they just put a footpath.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
big
that's what I'm
deal.
saying is,
But suppose they put in a wooden structure, they now put in a boardwalk,
right,
or they go through a vernal pool. I don't even know if there's vernal pools there, but how do we make sure that the intent of this area, which is to preserve nature, is
well, there's two ways to do it. One is to look at it now. I mean, this board,
look at the map up there. You see what the conservation easement is? There's a stream and a pond going through the top area.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't want anything going through there unless it was done appropriately. It was done with somebody who knew what they were doing to make sure that they don't.
But beyond the town interest in it and conserving it, the whole point is that a lot of these areas are jurisdictional to other agencies, such as the DEC, where if they were to do a crossing other than the one that already exists for that stream, they are required by law to go get permitted from the DEC. So a lot of these things are already under.
I guess I don't
someone else's
trust the
jurisdiction. Same thing
HOA.
with the Rondout Creek.
Well, we don't have any jurisdiction.
I guess I don't trust the HOA, so if we were saying blanket, if they're doing anything.
Then we need to tell the town board that we don't want that as an option.
But it is an option, we're stuck with it.
So here we are.
What if we simply said that the HOA has to come back to this planning board in order to do anything of any kind of recreation, construction.
In a conservation.
In a conservation area. And then we would have the ability to say,
I'm great with that.
you know, no, but we're not gonna do, we don't have the competency, you have to go to the DEC, you come back to us. Well, we have wetlands going.
Yeah, Bruce Barber.
So at least that gets around, I think, all of our concerns that
If they want to do anything in the future, they gotta come back.
At the fox starting chicken coop in terms of the conservation use.
All right, so then
I
we
agree
can,
with that.
I'm fine with that.
I just have a quick question. So is this, like, Nadine, you keep saying this is of the South Conservation Area. Does this apply to the entire conservation area?
Well,
or
in Rick-
just the South?
In Rick's purview, it would be, if you want to do anything in the conservation area,
All of them?
you gotta come right here.
I know, but Nadine, you keep saying the
This is
South.
specific, that this language in here is specific to the South Conservation Area, because that's the only thing on the site plan that we designate as a recreation area of picnic tables. So we actually label that, if you can go to the next sheet, or maybe it's either sheet 2 or sheet 3. Go to sheet 3 of the site plan. So down in that area, it's, you know, there's a label about future, recreation area.
Yeah, but Nadine, on
There's
paper, we want to make sure that the homeowners association comes back here, not that they have the ability to do
You
it.
can put your, conditions.
Sure.
And, David Gordon can then go
Yeah.
and send that to
Let's
their
put that-
attorney, or you
Yeah,
can send
let's
that to
put
their
that in the
attorney.
Let's put that in the conditions, sure.
But-
So Dave, you're
right.
gonna have to work something
That
to
is,
draft that.
this is
Verbiage.
why this is specific to the
Right,
south,
right,
because
right.
that's the only place, other than the walking trails,
Right.
that, was interested in any other recreation area.
Okay.
There is no future construction of anything in the northern conservation
But if they
area.
decided to put, again, the picnic tables, so it would be just the South.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it should be for both the north and south.
I think it should be
I
for
think
all
it
of
should be-
them.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's kind of like.
Just because they're not proposing it today doesn't mean the HOA might not decide.
It has to be all inclusive.
Well, we.
Our
we-
attorney's not
We're
getting a
basically
one cozy
restricting
feeling.
north. But there is none.
You are already restricting it?
That's basically what this is saying. There is nothing to be constructed in the north area, other again than the walking trails that are already proposed. on the
So
plan.
in the
No other
conditions,
recreation.
anything done in any of the conservation areas, whether it's the north, the south, the east, the west, the river. the
1 through
whatever,
40, yes.
has to be done.
So, Rick, I mean, they may mow the lawn, they may plant trees. I mean, do we want them to come back?
That's not construction.
Oh,
That's
any,
maintenance.
oh, any construction.
Construction.
Does construction include clearing a recreational path?
Yeah.
Okay, so any
disturbance.
land alteration.
So any disturbance.
Disturbance of land,
Because it may
not
or may
including
not-
trimming of
It's a
vegetation.
conservation.
Picnic tables, camping pods are very,
All right, we need to keep moving because we're getting in a rabbit hole. So
I think
Dave,
that's all.
draft something up for our review and we'll move from there.
And so that's the thing, like, right, so we're getting closer to the exact language. But, you know, there is a document and, you know, you're
That's good. We
We're
appreciate the
working
document.
to do that, again, is one of the conditions. that-
Okay,
that's
so let's
outlined in
go
the-
over those conditions now. We ready to do that? You don't have any other
Are
items?
you saying the same thing that I'm saying? Or are you
I'm
giving
saying,
the HOA an out, now they don't have to come back?
It's not a back and forth.
No.
We're gonna put it in and
everything
we're
has
not
to
gonna
come back
ask.
to-
It's just not a,
everything has to
okay,
come
that's
back
fine.
to you guys to
That's what
make
it
sure
says.
that they've met the conditions, even if Greg says, yes, the SWIP is 100% in compliance. It still comes back here and says, okay, the SWIP is in compliance. Do you have any questions about the SWIP? You know, so these things all of these items are part of, before we get signed off, it has to be accepted. Before it goes to the town board for sign off, it has to be accepted.
can we go over it? Are you done? Here we go. Okay, Rick, you don't have any more, correct?
Nope, that was it.
Let's get to work. We got work. Because otherwise the people in the public are gonna shoot. Here we go. Okay. I'm not going through the nitty gritty. We're going right to page number. Greg, it's coming to you. We're going right to page number 4 of 6.
Excellent.
Do you have one?
Oh,
I almost had that memorized. I'm good.
Here we go. Page 4. Greg, you got it?
Yes.
Here we go. Number 1, the applicant shall reimburse the town. Okay, fine. Number 2, the applicant shall pay all the subdivision recreation fees. Great. Number 3, the application shall present final plan signature. Nadine, you're pro at that. Number 4, the owner's consent block. You got it. Number 5, the applicant shall address the outstanding SWIP. You've already done some of that. Greg is still reviewing. Number 6, the applicant shall post inspection, restoration, and maintenance surety bond in the amount in accordance with the town of Rochester zoning and subdivision code to reviewed by the planning board engineer and town attorney and approved by the town board for any and all shared infrastructure such as roadways, stormwater facilities, and utilities. Stop right there. Have we identified how much that is?
No, so
Here we are.
since we just finished the SWIP with
Yep.
these facilities in the road, and we're waiting for this to be
Yep.
accepted. Then we're going to provide 2 things. We're gonna provide an engineer's estimate for construction.
Great.
Plus, we're gonna, provide some base costs for restoration.
Yep.
Which was something the.
Rick
board
mentioned,
wanted.
yep.
Like whether it's per square foot or per acre
Sure.
or whatever.
To
this
fix.
is,
Yep.
In case it doesn't get done, right? So those are costs that we will be presenting again to the board. The board will submit to Greg. Greg has any questions, concerns.
Good.
Eliminate them until that gets accepted, but that's why it's a condition.
Okay, good. We got it. That's good.
Yeah.
Number 7, the applicant shall obtain approval for the proposed wells and septic for Ulster County Department of Health. As part of the application to the Department of Health, the applicant shall include a hydrological evaluation of groundwaters as outlined in the following. 1, install 1 well with the project site, 1 test well per 10 lots, and monitor at least 1 neighboring well. Letter B, yield test the wells on site with continuous pumping. C, collect and test well water for water quality in accordance with New York City. Okay. 8, the applicant shall obtain the required stream, wetland buffer disturbance permits from DEC and Army Corps. 9, all common infrastructure construction shall be monitored by an outside party to be determined by the town planning board as known as clerk of the works. There we are, Rick. Number 10, the applicant shall provide the town building permit annual a certification from the engineer of record and qualified inspector of the infrastructure related maintenance and site performed for infrastructure. Rick, we covered that.
And just real quick, 9 and 10, we have added those notations to the site plan already.
Great, it'll be a condition when we sign the map, that'll be
Right.
something I'm gonna look at.
Yep. Just didn't
And
want- No, we didn't.
CPL is gonna be the clerk of the works.
That's correct. The applicant shall file a notice of intent for stormwater for DEC. 12, the applicant shall provide an HOA doc that has been accepted by the town board. 13, the applicant shall obtain a permit from the Department of Public Works for the proposed driveway access. 14, the applicant should provide the existing private road agreement for Peninsula Lane as well as the proposed private road agreement for the proposed development for Rio Vista Drive. I feel like we're in Florida, Rio Vista. That's gotta be something that is in Florida, but that's okay. Huh? What was it?
Which you
Oh, okay, I was going in the right direction.
you do have the road maintenance agreement. for-
We do, these are just conditions, so.
You just say.
Yep,
like, that
we already
was-
have it. The applicant shall add a note to the plan stating that phase 1 will be completed before the commencement of phase 2. I thought there was no phasing.
No, so the infrastructure.
Is
the
phase
road
1.
storm, That's phase 1.
Okay, and you have that labeled as phase 1.
We have it labeled as phase 1,
Okay.
we've, drawn a pretty outline.
We're good.
big Outline around it, and we have added that note in the construction on the plans and within the SWIP itself.
The proposed road width shall be 20 feet. You've already fixed that on the new plan submitted to Greg.
Yeah.
17, construction vehicles access will be permitted to enter the site only from Lucas Turnpike. This should also be added to the plan as a note. No construction vehicles coming off Peninsula Lane at all.
And that note has been added to the plans, sheet 11 as well.
Good. 18, utilities should be provided to the site by way of ingress off of Lucas Turnpike. 19, the applicant shall receive review by the town attorney and town board approval of the proposed conservation easement. We did some of that today, didn't we?
We sure did.
20, a meets and bounds description of proposed lots and conservation areas required to be submitted by a licensed surveyor and reviewed by the planning board engineer. Greg, that's to be determined. We talked about that a little today. The final plan set shall be amended as needed in order to include all information, details, and notation required to comply with any outside involved agents. Okay. We have 21. How are we looking?
The 22nd would be what we talked about before.
Yep,
That
hit me.
Dave is gonna craft,
HOA
which is HOA, they have to.
to come back
to the planning board.
to
with
PB
Any kind of
for
construction,
construction in any
conservation,
conservation location.
construction.
and or land disturbance.
Thank you.
Hang on, construction of what you say?
Construction or land disturbance. Hang on, construction or land disturbance in any conservation area outlined on the plan. Go ahead, Zora.
Actually, we'll be using the conservation of the property.
The word properties, good.
At the very beginning, the maximum length,
What number are you on?
reason for request, there is no 4.1, it's 3.9.
What number are you on?
At the very beginning.
Page.
Right, thank you. Page. Okay, where are we?
When it says,
First paragraph.
sizes ranges from 1.1 acres to 4.1,
Yep,
it's actually 3.9.
3.9, Greg. Got it?
Looking at that map. And also in finding the same thing in paragraph 2.
2,
Find it.
where's findings? Hang on.
Yeah.
Findings, number
2.
Number 2, you said?
Lot number 9
Yep.
is 3.9.
Lot number 9 is the 3.9, so that was changed. Greg, number, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Subdivision application date was August 20th, 2021.
where are you? What number?
Somewhere it's, where's it?
Subdivision as per in December of 21?
No, it's a blank.
It's a blank.
The very first page.
Okay, what was the date?
Application file,
What was the date?
August 20th, 2021.
8/21/21?
20,
Eight,
August
2020.
20th, 20, yes.
2-0.
2-0.
Thank you.
Finding paragraph 5, the last revised date of the plan is 2/14/2024.
Yes.
I love this story. Keep going. No, I do, because I'm not good at
End
this
of,
stuff.
end of decision, list of drawings, changed to last revised drawing February 14th.
Thank you.
That's it.
Good work.
Where's the,
It's the little details that matter. They all matter.
where is
Very
the,
good.
provision for no further subdivision?
That's a map note.
No further
It is-
subdivision,
it
it's
is
the
in the-
conservation easement. Oh, no further subdivision. No, I don't see.
It's a map, Town of Rochester map note.
Okay, so that nails that question down.
Before.
Close to it, no further subdivision.
That's right.
Before.
That's
The
right.
notes are on sheet four.
For a question, my Peninsula Road is that existing subdivision, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got that.
And all of those adjustments to the, that I went through, they're gonna be captured by Dave and the attorney.
I'm gonna add that right now.
And
Let
we'll
me,
get a
let me
new-
get that verbiage. Hang on, Rick. So 23, update and reflect changes in all 3 docs as reviewed from workshop notes in December of, what was that date?
December 4th.
2023. Thank you.
Thank
Because it won't be submitted obviously to the town board until this board.
Of course. Yep.
And then that's the condition.
And could we please get, not from you, but from their attorneys, these things in time for this board to go through it?
Yes.
With
Which
more than.
Now it will be not as much.
Which you have, you will have time because it's a condition of the approval.
Yeah, we're gonna have a
you
whole
know,
lot of time.
So, right, and then if for some reason, say they stop working on it and you don't get any, so in 6 months, when the approval expires, and we're like, okay, something happened with the attorney and we look for an extension, it's up to the board to either grant it, the extension or not. But
Understood.
that's, there's time
Okay.
to meet the last little bit.
And I hate to do this to the team, but could we put this project at the end of our agenda from this point on? So we don't.
I'm
have to
hoping that
have-
there isn't another one.
Well, because, so we don't have to have the public who
Yeah.
have
Well,
5
you
minutes,
guys could have it on your workshops. at
just something so the
some point,
public,
or-
other members.
I'm with you. Let's go back to page number 5. So effectively approval, we need to vote on this, and identify where we're at. So does the board feel good with after going through everything here?
No,
And
I want to see everything. What are we gonna approve?
We
added
need another
something.
meeting.
okay,
But that's, it's. part
it's
of
all
the
conditions of
condition,
approval though.
though,
I don't know what,
that's
I
the thing, like,
mean,
these.
We need a chance to read through the stuff that came in at 4:19 today.
that's fine.
They didn't.
Deliver on.
I went with, Mr. Gordon's word that we were happy.
Well, I appreciate that. I also had a note in the conservation easement that basically said, does the board want to be able to review, new projects there? So there was actually still outstanding questions. And this is the first time the board really has changed. It's very, very important for the board, not just the lawyer, to look at the conservation easement, because like I said, there's an ecological purpose to it. And people have to be happy with what it is.
Right,
So
but the thing is, this is not, it's not getting sent to the town board, like the planning board still has time to get everything the way they want it before it gets submitted to the town board of approval, because that approval is contingent, that's gonna be one of the conditions of the approval.
Yes,
So
I don't have a problem with that
that-
because we still have the ability to review this before we send it to the
So
town
the
board.
attorneys
So I'm
don't
okay with
need to make the adjustments that the planning board is happy with. It'll never get to the town board and never get approval, therefore the whole thing will get approved.
I want the owners, I'm not giving any approvals. I want the owners to be on, not our attorney, but the client's attorney. And we got these documents 2 hours ago before the
Right,
meeting started.
that's my.
So
opinion with it.
I'm not approving anything. I'm not, it's called project creep, and I'm not letting this. be
Okay, so
project
then
creep.
Nadine, we went over the draft approval. We have no other changes for this. We will get this updated. Greg will make those changes as we've discussed. And we will await the final items from you to review for the HOA and updates.
Well, so, from the board.
Yep.
Is there going to be, a written comment of that discussion of what is expected to be changed?
That's our
In the
attorney's
document?
responsibilities is going to be drafting what we want to see, and he'll get it back to those attorneys for their review.
Okay, so I just wanted to see what,
Yeah,
how that
obviously, they're not
process-
in the room, so.
Right. We're gonna,
These a bunch of them are ecologically based and others, it's coming out of the room tonight, something we will have to present to them.
We will present it to them.
They're not here.
We'll give them a heads up that this was part of the discussion and.
I mean, the
that-
faster you guys can get this done, we can get you on the next agenda. and
Right,
let's keep
but I
going.
want to make sure that,
Dave's gonna start the conversation.
what, I can start the conversation, I just want to make sure the verbiage that you're expecting Yes, communicated,
It's what?
communicated to
Absolutely,
them.
absolutely.
Okay.
We'll draft it, yeah.
Yeah, I want us to draft.
We will draft whatever changes and that's, so that these changes in the document, so we'll draft it. We're looking
So
for
David,
documents, like the declaration, the conservation easement, the HOA, which we're probably not gonna do with.
Not the HOA.
And the subdivision approval,
What do you mean the subdivision approval?
the conditions of subdivision approval.
Greg's
That's
approval.
already
No, he has things he has to add that we just discussed.
started the process. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, 2024-2, Patty Brooks, are you still back here? Come on. Barry Turner and others, a minor subdivision on 345 Towpath Road. Barry is here and the others are also here. And Patty is here. Patty, tell us what you have done, where we're at right now.
Absolutely.
Apps are coming. Thanks, Greg.
When we appeared last month, the board asked that we show the 100-foot stream buffers, which have been added to the overall plot. We added a note on the legend that the blue represented existing boundaries and the red represented proposed boundaries. We added the new proposed driveway on parcel A and showed the driveway area to be removed. We showed the flood zones. I wasn't clear on what the 1% forest note was, and Barry reached out to the forester, and he wasn't familiar with that terminology either. So we added note 12 to the map saying that the entirety of lot 4 is enrolled in New York State DEC 488.
That's great.
That's
perfect. Thank you.
I figured that would cover everything.
This is a really good submittal, Patty.
Thank
This
you.
is stand-up work. Thank you. Makes our life a lot easier.
And we added the location of the underground electric from utility pole
Yes, thank
5877 to the underground electric station on lot number 2. And that was all the changes I have in my notes, and received from the town.
Mark, you have to excuse my forgetting from 4 weeks ago. but
That's okay.
You wanted some assurances on a piece of property.
Yeah, so remember, Rick, when they crossed the road, Patty, you want to talk about that?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. I left that one out. Note number 11.
Yep.
With regard to lot number 3,
Oh, there it
it currently extends on the northerly and the southerly sides of Towpath Road. So we added note number 11 that says lot 3 shall not be subdivided. Lands on the northerly and southerly sides of Towpath Road are one parcel.
Okay, right. So Barry, that means that, like I said, we talked about this earlier, but the natural subdivision code allows that road that breaks that property to futurely potentially make that into 2 lots. This now restricts that because that lot would be unbuildable then. Now we have a potential problem with the town code. So this note is going to eliminate that, just making sure that you know you can't do anything with it. Okay, great work. I'll go around the room. We'll see where we're at, but this is really great. So thank you. Anne Marie, hit me.
I am fine with everything.
Great. Zorian? Rick? Fine. Zach?
I'm good. Do we need the right to farm on here?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
That was on my list. Cindy, did he hit yours?
That's it. Beautiful map.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we need to get the public hearing open, which we can make a
Make a motion on.
I have a motion for Rick to get the public hearing open. And I have a second from Zach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so Patty, next meeting, first on the agenda, 6:30, right on the rip, for the public hearing. Jasmine will get that information sent out.
Do I need to send out any first
She'll do it all and she'll give you the fee. We'll talk about it at the end. We'll see you next meeting.
Okay.
That's that be that easy? Yeah, we have nothing else.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, Patty. Great work. Okay, Big Net, skate time, Bjorn. Okay, Bjorn and Jamie, 2024-3, special use permit at 5164 Route 209. So can you tell us what you've submitted and where we're at?
Yeah. From last meeting, we consolidated a few of our maps.
Thank you.
Properly, onto one that you have there, that included the, truck root solar panels, the manufacturing areas labeled as change. All the changes are in color and everything in black on that map of streets. I provided a spec sheet for the ventilation, the kitchen code.
Hood and exhaust, yep.
Deed and LLC documents.
Thank you.
And I corresponded with Ag and Markets. Our license application has been submitted.
Okay.
And I included an email exchange with them, just showing that they are aware of us. The way it works with them is what they do with inspections. So once space is built,
They'll come and look at it. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the design on the side of the building.
Sure.
This is not in compliance with our sign code.
Because it would all be considered a sign.
Yeah, because you're marketing popcorn. If I put popcorn on the side of a tire building, we're gonna be, we're gonna be marketing for popcorn on tires. That doesn't work. Your corn sign is great. The circular sign, that's gonna be easily, depending upon the sign of the size. Remember, you have 100 square feet of aggregate.
Right.
Total.
Sure.
As to what you could do for your marketing signage, what you're gonna do on the building. I know that you're in front of zoning potentially, or going in front of zoning? Okay, so is that to change all of your exterior signage?
That is just to get the artwork considered
As
a variance to that.
so the artwork is a variance to the sign aggregate.
Yeah.
So instead of the 100 square feet of sign aggregate, you would try to get the variance to add the artwork that would not be marketing or sign material.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll wait for the zoning board, obviously, on what they're gonna do for that. We'll wait to hear from them. But currently on the signage side, in our purview, and we talked about this before, is that, we'll need an answer from zoning. So that's why you're to them. That's great. We won't, consider that anymore.
So
On signage?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What do you consider that circle?
The circle, in my opinion, the circle would be the sign,
Right.
not the popcorn. Right, so that's what he's going to zoning for to get that approved.
But
The way I see
the circle is fine.
Determining whether the art is acceptable.
Exactly. Agreed. Okay, so Dave Church, you're up. We'd like to go over line by line for your review.
Well, you want me to, get the high points?
Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so, once the board determines the application's complete, which I think you're essentially at.
Yep.
You need to refer it to the county, because it fronts Route 209, county planning board.
Yep.
And set a public hearing.
Okay.
For seeker, you have to do parts 2 and leading to parts 3 at some point, fairly soon.
Okay.
The entire site's in the aquifer protection overlay, so you'll need to understand this condition. You can't store or treat, store, handle, or dispose of hazardous waste on property of any.
That's just because the overlay that you're in the district. That'll be a condition of approval. We'll add it to.
Lighting, it wasn't totally clear on what additional exterior light.
Yeah, so we talked about lighting a little bit last meeting. You weren't sure. Where are we at?
Yeah, we've decided that what's there is gonna be adequate for us.
You're good.
We're not changing anything.
Okay.
Right, there you go.
That's good.
Yeah.
If you want to change something, the board just needs details.
Okay.
So I think you have a light, I think it's a floodlight on the top of the building, maybe?
There's 2 lights on the front of the
Okay.
building.
I mean, it is a lot of light.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Dave?
The traffic flow, map was good. I just recommend a review by the highway superintendent.
Okay, highway, got it?
And, the signage restricting movement to and on and off 209. I don't know if you need to change that or not.
There is existing signage about not being able to make a left turn into skate time on 209 or make a left turn out.
Right.
You have the island that sort of forces you to go right.
Yeah.
But what you're representing is you want all truck traffic to not go in or out that way, right?
Yeah, I think that's the better.
So I don't know how you're gonna.
Well, we would just put a sign that said, no truck traffic here, with a circle and a line through it.
Unless the board's not hung up with trucks could go in right off of 209, it's your call.
I'm confused.
So coming down 209 from.
It means a truck, anybody can make a left turn.
No, it's making a right.
Truck right.
It's making the right off 209 into the parking lot of State.
Right, so it's, what you have to get on.
Forcing them to use Medicahonks.
You have to go on Medicahonks. and
For
then
truck,
take a left
for
turn.
truck movement.
Right. So what?
The question is, that Dave is asking it to the board is, are we okay with truck traffic coming off of 209 into the parking lot? Or,
Through Medicahon.
no,
No.
through off of 209, there's a curb cut already.
You cannot go.
That's what we're
You
asking
could-
for.
Today
want
you
to go
could
to-
go south on 209 and right into the property.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Plenty of people do.
Would you all be okay with that?
I would be.
You mean kind of from,
Speaking
Accord.
from Kingston, Accord to, right, because you're making a right into the property.
Just truck traffic.
Right, I'm okay with that. It's
Okay.
obviously making the left that they can't even make a left.
Yeah, it's not right.
So I'll ask the board, does anybody have an issue? I don't have an issue making the right. I would say we need a sign at the exit on 209 that you can't make the left, because now we're gonna have traffic. But, I don't think coming in is a problem.
I don't think coming in is a
Okay.
problem.
So Dave, we're good on the coming in side?
Yeah, and the signage we just talked about, there is an exception for these traffic safety signs don't count. Some of the 100 square feet.
They don't count in that, in
They
the
don't,
aggregate.
they're not counted.
That's correct.
So bear that in mind. You should probably refer to the fire department.
Yep.
Let's see here, information still needed. The board asked for 6 additional items. I apologize, it wasn't at the February meeting, so kick me, Zach, if you want, if I'm out of line. They asked for 6 additional items. I saw you got 5 of them, but there wasn't more information on the solar. Is that still true?
Yeah, so on the solar, you told us that you were proposing solar, but you didn't really have the idea of where you wanted it, what it was gonna be, how big. We asked for some more detail from the solar company on those panels.
We have a proposal that I thought I submitted the first time around, but if you don't have it, you don't have it.
I think you submitted the proposal on where it would go on the roof.
Something Solar Alchemy, a document that is like it's a quote from Solar Alchemy that.
Nope.
Your roof is not flat right now, right?
No, it's got
So
a
the solar
low
gonna
pitch,
be
yeah.
on one side.
So we'll need that solar detail.
It's in there. It's under electrical.
That might be why.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, there we go.
Well, that takes care of the.
Solar Alchemy, there you go.
That's the missing document for complete application.
Okay.
Let's see here. So updated, you've got certain documents, the floor plan, the traffic movement and parking sheet. You just need to title them and date them.
The documents that I sent.
They're just, they're just maps with no title or date or who made it.
I put most of that information on this consolidated map and then actually properly labeled it, but I.
Unless you're not using those separate sheets anymore, it's all on here.
All the information's on there, so I was just gonna go forward with that.
With one map instead of 5. Okay.
It's just if we're gonna keep them as official documents, we gotta have for future reference, there's
Right.
gotta be an ability to date and.
Understand what it
And
is. So
refer who prepared the map.
the new map that that you submitted just needs to be reflected saying 1 of 1.
Okay.
Overall combined plot map or something like that.
Yeah, or acknowledge that sheet.
Previous map is no
That
longer.
sheet has everything. Jasmine,
There you
just
go.
take those.
So just a map note from your guy, Johnson.
Take them out and purge them out of the, we don't need them, do
We won't purge them because we keep everything, but we can label as do not use or original submissions oriented.
Should we have a floor plan for production facility to know where the safety exit and all that stuff?
The interior?
Yeah.
I think
We have that.
we have that
Where?
in the file.
In file?
It's, I think it's labeled map.
Yeah, it's
2024-0129 map.
That's the flow of traffic.
No. This is where the doors are, where everything is. Receiving area, warehouse with rack storage. We have that already.
Yeah, if you guys want that detail, I do need 2 maps because it wasn't possible to fit all of that on.
Which we'd like to see. We'd like to see the inside detail and the overview. Go ahead, Dave.
No, that doesn't, so today, that does it for me. So today, if you think you've got a complete application, you can set a public hearing.
Right, so I feel good with the complete application. I feel good with setting the public hearing. The only concern is we can't do a final plot until we have an answer from the zoning board on the signage, because we haven't reviewed signage. So why don't we do that? Why don't we go ahead and set the public hearing?
I'll make
Peter?
I just had a question
Yeah.
about traffic flow.
Yeah.
I have to be there today.
Yeah.
Are you, planning on having any sort of parking in the back? I have a concern about marking that as no parking for fire
Okay.
department access.
Yeah, we can definitely put no parking signs.
No customer parking?
Yeah.
No truck parking, because
No
there's
truck parking.
There either.
there's no parking, in my opinion, I don't think there should be any parking along the route. Because if you have a problem with any of those HVACs or.
You can't get in there.
Into the building, it's just single lane.
Okay, so we'll need a sign detail on just what you're gonna do for no parking with a line through it or whatever you're gonna do. The standard no parking signs are fine that are white and red, whatever your proposal is, we just need to see that on your sign proposal map when you get that completed.
Okay.
So,
So should, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, nope, go ahead.
So the floor plan that I see here,
Yep.
kind of shot, video shot,
It was taken with my.
it needs to be a little bit clarified. I see now what the rectangle box is actually that side. most likely.
Yes.
But should you show there, fire safety exit or something like that? It's
Sure. I don't know that they're labeled on that map. I'm not sure, but I will add them.
But can you produce different document like a PDF file rather than that shot?
What are you looking for, Zorian? A fire what?
Exit safety exit, should we
Like
always?
the exit sign, like that exit signs, like stuff?
I'm not saying sign, but at least to show.
Where they are.
Right.
Okay.
And have a PDF file rather than a JPEG.
Well, she had to take a picture of it with her phone. 'Cause it's so
No, I
big.
know,
So we'll
but,
need something from Johnson that they can email it to us digitally.
When you hand me the paper copy, just email me the digital copy.
Okay, got it. Yeah, sure. I didn't give you digital PDF.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
no problem.
With that addition, which is coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Safety essentially.
So Mark, if you could document somehow to the county that there's an intent or an actual filing with the zoning board for the sign, you could potentially refer it to the.
So what I'd like to
county
do is, before I do that, I think I'd like to, we have the solar detail now. We need to get highway and fire input still, which I can request tomorrow to have before the public hearing. I'd like to hear what the public has to say. If there's not a whole lot of public comment, then we'll get it over to the county. By that time, he might have zoning review already. Otherwise, I have to send it to the county again after I have that, because it could change dramatically. Then it would just hold everybody up. So rather than doing that, let's get the items that are outstanding. Let's set the public hearing tonight, see where we go, see where the public comes. If there is a lot of public comment, we'll determine at that point. If there's not a lot of public comment, we'll go right to Ulster County Planning.
And can I say I had the truffle popcorn, it's phenomenal. And I'm not a popcorn guy, I'm a pretzel guy, but it's that popcorn was good.
I do it.
Okay, how about a motion for the public hearing? Peter?
Second it.
Peter is motion, second Zach. Hang on, I gotta write this down. Peter, Zach, all in favor? Aye, any opposed? Any abstention? Okay.
Quick question. How many things do you have in front of the zoning board? Do you have the big roller skate?
Just that now.
All
Just-
the
just-
same application.
That's all in the same application.
But what do you ask?
So it's the roller skate, the front.
Actually, I didn't submit the popcorn.
Send it to me tomorrow. I haven't sent the agenda.
Yeah,
out
we'll
yet.
need that to be
I'm
included.
not sure if I should find them or
Yep,
what.
I'll add it to the
Okay.
file. It's
So
the
you've
same
got-
building, so it's all the same.
So you've got the popcorn,
Well, no, it'll be all, Rick.
you've got the front.
Yep.
And then you've got the
Roller
skate.
Okay, so before the next meeting, I'll need, I don't need anything from you with the exception of updating those maps and getting them re-identified. We will work, Jasmine and I will work on getting the highway and the fire letter. Look at the public hearing out. You don't have a whole lot of neighbors there, so it should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hang on, Emery. Sorry.
I want to make a comment about noise, but with the fence that you submitted, kind of figure out which one you're using because there's a bunch of fence here, depending on static pressure, you get different consumption. And I come up like you're gonna run the 4 of them at the same time.
Sure, yep.
So it comes like a 75 dBA.
It's actually-
Four of them comes to 81.
Yeah, that's actually what I got too.
Yeah, and you have a 100, nearest line is 180 feet, your property.
Yep.
And there is some calculation that shows that that borderline would be like a 13.6 dBA, so you seem that you're okay.
Yeah.
36 is required, and considering you have a 209, yes, so you.
Right, there's enough distance, that's what we determined too, that's definitely gonna be quieter than.
I just want to make it look.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that's good. Okay, Marie.
No, I was just saying, check with the folks over in, Rosendale, because, there's a lot of businesses over there that have artwork on, and I don't believe they had to go through the signage thing because it's art, it's paint on the house, so you might be able to, you know, go
Yeah.
through that route, to see what they have shown.
All righty, we'll see you at next month's meeting. You will be number 2 for public hearing.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, see you. Okay, the moment that we've been all waiting for, the granary, Ren Hockey and Henry Rich, Alan from Bernier and Larios on 2 Towpath Road. This is application 2024-8, a site plan approval in the Hamlet District of Accord. Very important to be known by all planning board members, the seeker has already been completed by town board. We are specifically reviewing site plan only. Remember, this has been authorized as an EEO site for enterprise economic overlay. I talked to Mr. Hockey earlier last week and asked him to give us a brief overview and synopsis of what this project looks like, because it's been a long time since we had involvement in the EEO. So Ren, Henry, give us the 10-minute elevator speech. How's that?
They would give it to.
8? Oh, don't tempt me. I'll start the clock. That's right.
This is an okay spot, except for you.
Whatever you say. The floor is yours.
It's gotten shorter.
You're on the clock. How's that?
Just kidding. Permission into the court?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so, a few things, updates, because.
I will say, Alan, on the front end, amazing application. Thank you for doing the hard and dirty work, because this is really, really, really good. So thank you.
This is, in resubmitting the photometric plan, because the printouts in the submission, was poor.
Sure.
And this actually shows where the white locations are on each of the buildings.
All right, we'll get them out.
So that's the official, but then I have a smaller version as a handout,
Rick.
unless you want those to be circulated.
Come on. This is your show. We're just, your rodeo. We're just enjoying it, but you can't have a rodeo.
Didn't happen. I missed it. So that's just a smaller handout of it, and then an updated landscape rendering. No, that's for you, and then I have one for everybody.
Pass it then. Just give them one more and give these guys one more share.
I have 8, so maybe that gets me most of the way.
Are you looking for brownie points?
Yeah, they're
Thank you so much.
You want them?
I like it.
Let's see what he says first. We'll get to the nitty gritties.
Okay, how many more do I have? You're sharing?
Yeah, we'll all share here.
You have one. Okay.
So we asked our planner, Dave Church, to provide a once over on this, because as the town board has done the EEO, we're not familiar with not doing seeker. So we asked Dave to give us the details of what we are looking for. So once you guys are done with your spiel, then we'll go to what Dave has provided, which I think I've already provided you guys as well. And we'll go by line. So it's all yours. Hit it.
I think just a quick introduction to the project.
Sure.
Why we're doing this. Basically, everybody's familiar with the site. It's right in the middle of town, and Ren and I separately fell in love with it. And first and foremost, it's a historic conservation project for these buildings, which are, many of them are over 100 years old. We've got the large granary, which you can see from the street. The pole barn, which you can also see from the street, which needs quite a bit of work, or it's at risk of falling down like some of the other structures over the past 20 years. There's what we call the tall barn. If anybody's walked onto the site, you can sort of see it from the street, but it's a 3-story building. We have some renderings as well. That's the main kind of historic granary site with the barns. There's a Sears house, which is 2 Towpath, which is also part of the original site. And then 4 Towpath is the blue building, and 8 Towpath is the yellow building. And there was another structure that I believe used to be a Chinese restaurant.
That's correct.
And before that, I believe it was Ship Galley.
That's the Ship's Galley. There you go. You get brownie points.
Bring it back.
That's okay. We're in next month's meeting, we have granary trivia that I'm not releasing early.
Oh, great. So yeah, that unfortunately, burned down. But that's, that, that would have been a little bit to the right, of that yellow book. But aside from historic preservation, part of the idea is a larger idea of, revitalizing historic Main Street in the hamlet, in accordance with the town comprehensive plan, which talks about element of the hamlet, doing things to promote tourism, doing things to retain or attract jobs. Unfortunately, over the last 20 years, there's been a significant drop in the number of employers in the town of Rochester, actually a significant drop in the number of people living in the hamlet. At the moment, 85% of people work in the town of Rochester commute out of town. So there's a large part of this is restoring sites, creating jobs. We have received a grant from the Mid-Hudson Regional Development Office, and a big part of it is part of the attraction for bringing money to Rochester in the budget was the job creation and historic site preservation. Also for me, I'm really interested in running kind of sustainable hospitality businesses. Just to speak about it for 30 seconds, I have the first Schofield carbon neutral restaurant group in New York, the only trash-free restaurant in the United States. And we want to bring some of those kind of super green, sustainable values right to the heart of town. That's sort of the most general what and why. Do you want to talk a little about?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I'm Ren Hockey, co-owner of the project. As you stated earlier, we've been approved already for an economic enterprise overlay district by the town board. This is the site plan that was approved by the town board. Since then, we have hired a rock star landscape architect who made some improvements to the site plan. I just want to point out what some of those changes are.
Sure.
So we refined the arrival experience here for both guests being dropped off by vehicles and for pedestrians approaching from Towpath Road. It should be noted that we were able to maintain the turning radius and length requirements for truck deliveries. And that's all in Alan's plans as well. These green islands here, we're proposing as grass pavers. And the change in the surface treatment will define the intended path of vehicle movement for pickup and drop off. And we just refined the area somewhat more so that we took advantage of previously disturbed areas.
Thank you.
Moving on to the main parking entrance over here. You can see it's softened up quite a bit, the approach from Towpath Road. And so these adjustments to the front parking layout significantly reduce the view and visibility of parked cars from Towpath.
Great.
We reduced the amount of point of vehicle access into the property from Towpath Road to 2. Originally, we had a third employee entrance. We've striked that.
Everybody appreciates that. Thank you.
Yes, it was very confusing with gates and clickers and wasn't gonna be fun. This parking area over here, which serves the future bike shop, which is 8 Towpath, is just more clearly defined and separated from the main parking area, which is intended to serve the rest of the property. We just made some alterations to the layout and the design of this to take advantage of just the overall site character and shifted it somewhat so that it didn't interfere with the old ruins of these stone foundations that are here. And as you can see, we've softened this southern property line here to, help the neighbor out a bit with his view shed of and parking. Landscape plan and grading plan. All the plants that are specified here are native to the region, low maintenance, drought tolerant, and hopefully deer resistant, depending on the year. Selection and placement of all plant material is intended to screen or buffer visibility of parking, frame desirable views and provide seasonal interests year round. And the management of plant material and seated areas will define all walking paths. And the grading plan is designed to direct stormwater to low points that will be planted with species suitable for rain gardens.
Okay.
So if I missed anything, Alan, let me know, but I'll pass it on to you.
Take one of these down.
Sure.
I also, in case anybody wanted copies, I brought. Okay, so what we submitted is a 5-page set. Obviously, Ren covered the changes in the layout. Our layout basically is what we're granular in nature. Everything was designed to basically comply with Town of Rochester zoning law, DOH, DOC front by sanitary codes for food service, temporary residences, and public water supplies. As well as Ulster County Health Department sanitary code for food and industrial supply. So it's a 5-page set. Page 1, existing conditions. 2 is our site plan. 3 is utilities. 4 is signage, and 5 is detail. I'll try to.
Alan, before you flip, Alan, just a question. Can you just go over what is in each building? Like, what's the proposal? I know one is a. Go ahead.
Get to.
You got it.
Yep.
So page 1, no existing conditions, basically as you go to the site now. As Henry referred to earlier, the existing buildings. Basically covers the existing buildings, the existing roadway, the former parking, existing parking. And there's quite a bit disturbed, as was mentioned before, that we are trying to take advantage of all the disturbed area. Pretty the whole courtyard between the various buildings was or is, gravel, paved, et cetera. So on page 2 is where we basically get into our zoning compliance table, our building uses, which is what you were asking about, our parking summary, as well as our handicap parking summary, on our area disturbance summary. So to respond to your question first, the granary, which is this building right here, it's going to basically be food service establishment, including restaurant, bar, facility-related events, co-work space, coffee shop. The tall barn, which was mentioned earlier, is this one here, which is the multi-story building. It's guest rooms. The Sears house over here is the one right closest to the corner, is guest rooms as well. Or towpath is between the 2 existing residence buildings. That's employee housing and back of house operations for the facility. So basically office, some storage. And then as whoever mentioned earlier, 8 towpath is the bike shop. And then the coal barn being back here, future gallery space. Couple other things that show up here. A bit more detail as far as the vehicle movements. The design is based on anticipated delivery vehicles, which we went through at length with the town board during the due process. Sample vehicle with that. And a couple of things I should mention, and I'll get into a little more detail in a minute. Sewage disposal system, sewage reserve area. The sewage disposal system has been reviewed and approved by the Ulster County Health Department.
Do you already have approval from them?
You already have approval from them. And the 100% sewage reserve area is part of that approval.
Okay.
In addition, the wastewater flow is greater than 1,000 gallons a day. So it requires a New York State DEC, SPEEDS, state pollutant discharge elimination system permit. We have that permit.
You already have that permit.
Already have that permit.
Great.
Because
So
the health department won't issue.
water in and water out is covered.
So the health department won't issue the sewage approval until you have SPEEDS permit. Appropriately so.
Okay.
And this is for subsurface disposal. So it's this area right here. Is the bike shop rental or is it repair and sale of pipes?
All three.
All three. Great. I know where to get my pipe repaired.
There you go. In mine.
Okay, page 3. This takes it into a little bit more detail as far as utilities. And on utilities, we're showing a little bit more detail on the sewage system. We're showing the sewage collection system and the force main location, the various septic tanks, the pump station. We're also showing a bit as far as the water main location and the well source, which we're using the former well from the Shawnee Express.
Okay.
We
You have a lot of water there, right? A lot of water in Main Street Act.
Yes, there was actually, the yields were very good.
Yes.
We've already consulted with the health department on the water supply.
Okay.
A couple, things I should mention is the submission that went to the health department for the wastewater was fairly voluminous. We're sharing you that on these drawings.
Great.
The next page is the signage plan, page 4. Basically shows where we have stop signs, where we have one way, handicap parking, delivery signs, stop signs, and facility signs. Facility signs, are basically, we covered that earlier. Our facility signs are going to be on page 2. Over here. And over here.
Okay.
One thing I did not mention on the site plan is the disturbance summary. We kept the site disturbance under an acre, it's 0.91 acres, because as mentioned, we utilize as much disturbance as possible. So we're not required to get a New York State DEC speedies permit for stormwater.
Okay.
We're not doing a SWIP, as was mentioned.
Because you're not over an acre.
Not over an acre, and as Ren was mentioned earlier, final development of the plans is also going to include things like rain gardens. Obviously, once the final architecturals are done, we'll be able to disconnect. We won't have long roof leaders, so we'll have gutters. Roof leaders will basically be directed towards rain gardens. We'll have other site dissipation measures for stormwater, so that should take a request. All the parking we're showing is gravel.
Okay, great.
We'll have a certain amount of permeability, with the exception that we would typically for the accessible parking be doing like an item 4.
Good.
Because it compacts better, it's a bit easier to use if you're accessibility issues. And as Brandon mentioned earlier, these areas will be grass pavers, so normal person driving through it, it's not going to go on them. Small to medium-sized delivery vehicle goes over it, it's made to be driven on.
Okay.
And then the last page. Is basically just standard detail for parking,
Signage.
stormwater, drenching, things like that. As I mentioned before, we made quite a bit of progress with the health department. The health department will be issuing, in addition to the fact that sewage, they'll be issuing the water approval as far as part 5-1, which is public water systems, part 7-1, as I mentioned, which is the temporary residence, the part 14-1, which is food service establishment. So all those are under the purview of the health department. So that will be dealing with them during design, but also there will be annual operating permits issued. Of
course.
With that, I hope that wasn't too quick.
Great. No, so before we go around the board, I'd like Dave Church to provide his input and update as to what the board has purview to and what we should be looking for. So Dave, let's go over your review, and you guys have a plan on this as well, and then we'll go to the board members and see where we're at. So Dave, the floor is yours. Hit the high points.
Okay, so, excellent project and documentation, by the way. So unique to this, as they talked about, you have the EEO approval already.
Yep.
With the mega resolutions.
Yep.
One of them is a 90-pager.
Yeah.
And there's a 90-page with attachments. approval.
Oh, you need something to do?
And, yeah, you got work to do. You gotta catch up. And I may have mixed them up, but the determination of significance for seeker was 70 pages. There's a lot there.
That's good. Thankfully, we don't have to go over it.
Yes, but there are some things you have to consider in site plan approval in these 100 and some odd pages of documents, which I'll just go through quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And also there was the combination of the 5 lots, right?
Yes, we've already done
Is
that.
there any paperwork confusion? The
So
county
we-
still hasn't.
Right, so we
assigned
have a
the
lot line certification that's been signed. They filed that map. We have the updated map, but it hasn't been updated in Ulster County.
Yeah, so if anyone looks online, it'll be confusing because there's no
new
there's
SPL
tax
number assigned.
parcel.
They told me in the moment that it would be 3 or 4 months.
That's typical.
They're redoing their mapping system, like rumor has it.
Good.
If you have an essential decision, which I'll get to in a moment.
Go ahead.
But if you consider this a complete application, you've got to schedule a public hearing and refer to the county.
Okay.
The county did get the zoning change referred. It didn't say much, other than approve it.
We did have a gateway meeting with the county at one
Sure.
point with Dennis Doyle and, yeah.
Good.
But you consider yourself lucky they didn't say anything other than approve it. It was,
They love the project.
Okay, so we have
highly unusual.
Public hearing, we have Ulster County Planning Board. Go ahead, Dave.
Correct. So, let's see here. You're guided by 3 essential documents. Your code first, the first decision you have to make. The code says related to the EEO district, the planning board shall make a finding, quote, that the site plan in front of you is in substantial conformance with the conceptual development plan that was submitted to the town board and served as the basis for the zone change.
Yeah, so I saw that as well. And ultimately what that means is that the town board had a review of their project of what they wanted to do. Now they're in front of us and we need to determine whether there was a conceptual change, substantive. There you go. That word, change, that we need to determine if there's something that was huge that made it require go back to the town board. The only thing that I thought was of conversation, I don't think it's huge, but in my purview, they eliminated the third access for the parking for the employees, which I think is a good thing that they eliminated and is not a
substantive change.
Substantial conformance.
There you go. So that was the only thing that in my opinion, was of large importance, but it was such a great change.
You played with the parking.
Substantial conformance basically
other
means
thing
that it's
was-
the same project.
Correct.
It's a, it's
So-
eliminating.
Well, because if the project changed
Substantially, right.
there goes seeker.
And we have to go back to the town board.
Right.
There goes, they're not meeting the conditions of the town board approval.
So you
right?
need a vote from the town, from us that says that it was not?
In my view, you need to confirm that first.
Okay, so
before you-
when we do-
let's do that now.
Well, let me go through the things. 'Cause
Okay.
Okay.
But it looks like Dave wants to weigh in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
And as was noted, seeker's taken care of.
Correct.
Because they did coordinated review.
Yes.
Let's see here. So assuming that it's not substantively different, that they two conform.
Yep.
There is the giant notice of determination and negative declaration that did find a series of impacts. And in the resolution states what they're supposed to do about it. So the board will have to consider those in the site plan approval. There's several of them. I want
you to give us a list of what you want us to look at, what
Okay.
they want us to look at. to
Well,
make sure
the
we're covered.
impact on air, the applicant's expected to have control of dust and sediment during construction, for example. Impact on plants and animals, there's an expectation that 2/10 acre woodlot will remain undisturbed. Impact on open space, the applicants agreed to work on safe rail trail access and relocation if necessary. Impact on human health, removal of lead paint. Lead paint exists in portions of the site and must be performed by a licensed pavement professional. Impact on land. A speedy permit has been found not to be needed. However, the applicant has proposed a number of measures addressing treatment and attenuation that need to be documented.
So what we'll do with those is we will just
And
make,
there's 10 other ones like
Okay.
that in the literal town board resolution for
Okay.
the EEO. So you're gonna have to do a bunch of those. And then, what else? The EEO approval granted them, I don't quite know how this works, but I'll defer to the lawyers on how you do zoning waivers with a district change. But the town board apparently with that approval granted the following waivers to certain standards. The applicant may use a small portion of the town municipal parking lot nearby to accommodate 6 off-street parking spaces. So on site, they don't have to meet the requirement -6.
right, because this is a hamlet district that was changed to an EEO
I
district. So
understand.
they
The
give,
procedure is a new.
that gives them the ability to use town parking to meet
I
their
don't
parking
question the
standards.
substance, the process, that's weird. Required parking spaces, sizes have been reduced.
Yep, we do that all
To
the time.
9 by 13, 18 feet already.
We do
This
that
has
too.
happened. 3, the proposed off-street parking can include 13 spaces in a continuous row.
Yep.
Which I guess exceeds what your current. 4, relief has been granted from the requirement for a 20-foot depth planting separation from the road. And last, the cupolas on the coal barn and granary have been, the height restriction's been waived and they can be allowed to go to 39.7 and 40'10" respectively, which I assume is what exists.
Yeah.
So those are given.
We're not going any higher. We thought about it.
Dave, other than that, the hamlet restrictions still apply, right?
Correct.
Hamlet is an overlay.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Procedurally then,
Hit me.
complete application, this conformity decision, public hearing and referral. I recommend it be referred to Ackworth Fire District and the Highway Superintendent for comment. Because the primary frontage is on a town road, right, the access.
Yes.
And if not the exclusive at this point, you're exclusively
The
gonna. have
primary
to-
entrance is actually up on towpath.
On towpath,
Yeah.
Up towpath,
not on granite.
probably not within 500 feet. That's an auxiliary entrance for.
No, the property front's a county road, the other road's a county road.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant. the
It's going
main
in house.
Okay.
No, we have to send it to county just because
Look
you
at
have,
the access, right?
yes, on towpath, correct.
On towpath. Further documentation of the other permits you talked about, and the speedies permit, so we'll just need to see the control measures that you're gonna use as an alternative to a speedies permit, which Alan went over, but yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the.
So it's the conformity decision that has to be made first.
Right, so let's do that.
Why is that?
Because it's in the code, and if it's not in conformity, then you've got a
Secret
host of
problem.
problems.
We have to agree that it is in conformity. so that it
Because
doesn't have to
first
have a
of
secret.
all, what's the effect of the seeker coordinated review if they're looking at a different site plan that is approved for the zoning?
I understand that, but I'm just wondering, we got a whole bunch of things.
And that's what their code says.
That gets done first.
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer.
So we're gonna do that first. So I need a motion from somebody to agree that this is not a substantial change to the original site plan that was approved at the town board's EEO level.
We're only gonna do that.
It's a substantial, and that would be that
It is-
colors is that colored document, and that's your concept. of
That's
development
landscape,
plan, right?
Landscape.
Is that substantially in conformity with the site plan? in front?
Yes.
So I'm gonna depend upon
Dave,
you telling us that it's okay, otherwise, we're all gonna have to.
Yeah, if you're comfortable that the access and parking change and some of the landscaping changes are acceptable, the discussion
Oh, yeah,
about
it
the
got better.
approach. Those are the only changes that were presented to the team.
Okay,
so somebody make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Rick and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so Dave, we agree that it is not a substantial.
So no complete application.
So we have a complete application.
Hearing
done.
and referral to.
Okay, so now I need a motion to set the public hearing.
I'll make the motion to set the public hearing.
Okay. Zach and Rick, all in favor? Peter, sorry, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Last motion to send to Ulster County Planning Board. Zach, second. Second by Anne Marie, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Where's Mike Moriello? He'd be happier than a clam right now. Because he wanted to write a letter saying, this is a complete application. We know. All the dogs. Okay, Dave, what
So
next?
I would suggest the referral should probably send the EEO
Yes,
mega
approval with it.
documents,
Yes.
because the
Make
county,
that note.
so you got them for me, right?
Yes.
It's,
So the whole EEO
it's
package,
the local law number 10 of the Greater Wright.
2023 or 3?
Three.
3, okay.
And the determination of significance.
What's the basis for referral?
It's the road.
Granite Road is a county road.
West is.
Okay.
Front's County Road. Okay, so we have all those things.
So
We have,
once we finish those things, the only thing we do is those 10 or 12 items that they referred to
Yep.
us.
and we still waiting on Fire and Highway, which we'll get
Right.
before the next meeting.
So you mentioned
so-
this.
Well, you've got your standard site plan standards, but.
So
you've
I
got,
want to talk about the landscaping plan quick while it's on our topic. So Ren, you have a firecracker of a person who's doing that. They did an outstanding job. You want to just review that quickly? Maybe we can check the box on that too.
Sure, I mean, what, if you have specific questions or?
So Rick's our landscaping guy, in my opinion.
It's great.
It's great.
I
Okay.
want one more tree as long as you went this far. See if you can add a Dawn redwood, a couple of Dawn
Is it
redwood.
native?
They were native about 150 million years ago. So yes, they're native.
I gotta go back to the town code.
But
It all comes back to the town.
go talk to her. She'll tell you, yeah, that's that.
I love a dogwood.
No, it's not a dogwood.
Redwood.
It's called Dawn redwood.
The Dawn redwood is dog.
Okay, so you actually have a dogwood in there already. We were talking
Yeah.
about it earlier.
Sure, I mean, look, I don't have that in front of me to go
That's fine.
through the specific species.
No, we have it. It's loaded.
Yeah,
We don't, I guess we don't want to just make sure is we want to check the box on landscaping. So we're not gonna ask you to bring her all the way here for a 3-second conversation and move it on.
Sure.
So we're pretty happy with the landscaping unless anybody has any objections. There's a whole slew of stuff here. Everybody's good. Okay, so landscaping, we're gonna check the box on.
And I was serious about it. See if she'll, what she
I
said.
will. I seriously will. Tell
They're
me
not
the
that
name again.
expensive. Dawn redwood.
Dawn redwood.
They're not that expensive.
The guy is a genius when it comes.
Planted 150 million years
Yeah, he
ago.
knows it all. Yeah, it did.
Local one.
Okay, so landscaping, we're checking that box. Parking has already been approved by the town board on the size.
Yeah.
Okay, the reduction's already occurred. So Dave, do you have any recommendations on parking? Do you feel like they have adequate?
No, it works for me. I just,
Okay.
when I did the review, I think I talked to the architect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who said had done some changes to the parking. So my review doesn't reflect my knowledge of the specifics of that.
Right.
So.
And all you did was change,
We didn't
you
change the
eliminated,
number.
you eliminated the access, but kept the same number.
We kept the same number.
Okay.
Number still refers to
Yeah.
the 6 feet of municipal, we still the
Okay.
same number of accessible spots. The big, what we did, that was a big improvement, as I mentioned, going from 3 entrances to 2.
Yep.
Was that one of the concerns earlier was the backing out on the toe. plan,
Sure.
Which we eliminated, now we really.
Good.
So, and also I should mention that the longest area we have without a break as far as parking is only 10 spots.
Okay, great.
Earlier.
And we have a third ADA spot.
Yeah, we talked about the third ADA. That's good. Zorian?
About parking, should the public parking shown, which specific public?
We have so we have public parking shown versus, the public parking is basically the gray.
No, I'm talking about town parking.
The municipal lot.
Right, yeah, right.
It's not on the map.
Where is that?
No,
It's pulled out on the chart.
it's on the map and it's in the EEO. It's not on their map. Because they don't own the property.
No, okay, but for,
It's on the map that they have the authority to use 6 town parking spots. in the
I understand
municipal.
for each one, because on this side, yeah.
Oh, which one is specifically in the municipal lot?
That's essentially my
I don't think
question.
that's outlined.
It's not been defined.
I don't think it has.
So people can go to that parking lot, or they can park here maybe?
What?
No, they can only park in the municipal parking lot, which is labeled municipal parking.
So you're gonna have a sign probably?
No, it's the town parking,
It's just
Zorian.
No, no, I'm saying sign, the people come, there is no parking space.
Yeah.
Directing them to municipal, that's what I'm talking.
Right, so you're gonna have to give us a review of what that sign will look like that says additional parking in town municipal lot, whatever that looks like.
My impression is, that was, it's essentially a relief from the on-site parking.
Right.
Of 6 spaces, right?
Correct.
And the allowance to use 6 spaces in municipal.
Exactly.
Can I just ask, what is the town of Rosendale?
I have no idea. We're in town of Rochester.
I mean, but does any of the businesses, are they asked to
No idea.
direct people?
Sorry.
I mean, some of them
No,
would
there is
have
a plan.
small signs up telling them to go, behind the buildings, but I'm not sure if they were.
But in Rosendale,
But-
when you're in Rosendale, you.
Alan, you can draft us something with that.
On Main Street, you will see signs, so you understand.
Exactly. Okay.
Here,
But overall, I want to get the board's review that you're good with the parking as it's laid out.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm good with it. Okay, so parking, we're gonna check the box on parking too,
Okay.
because your layout is exactly what we want to see.
What we could probably do is just, the sign, we could enter the parking lot in case you don't find a spot. that just says Overflow parking at municipal parking.
And I think, Henry, you did that too, over here, didn't you?
I mean, honestly, if the main lots are full, people just keep driving and
Okay.
go somewhere else.
Okay, understood.
It's shocking.
Oh, disagree.
Okay, that's that.
Can we talk, Dave, about lighting?
Sure.
Okay, are dark sky compliant? Are you happy with the lighting as
Well,
well?
what I saw, sure, but I don't, there maybe needs some more detail.
Don't we usually have our engineer take a look at that?
Well, I was, because the town already looked at it, I don't know if that's something we need to look at or not. So that's
But
what
they got a plan, and they did calculations and they gave you a healthy dose of, the cut sheets for the actual fixtures, so it seems satisfactory to me. I don't know if anyone's got any preference.
I was just worried about the dark sky compliancy, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that that's in there.
It was there,
Okay.
it's there.
And you have cut sheets, okay.
And there's cut.
Review it. And we usually have our engineer review, let's stick to some process.
Okay, so we're gonna send the lighting cut sheets to CPL.
Sure, it's fine, but that's.
For review. Do we have escrow on this already, Jazz?
I was told not to worry about it. Mike handles that one for this application.
That's not true.
told me when it
We
comes
we
to the
decide,
greenery.
we decide escrow though, not Mike. Okay, so we will talk about escrow in a second. We have lighting, we have parking, we have landscaping. Anything else that we're missing?
They got the signs, they got your.
Signs, yep.
Are those
They
interior signs?
provided.
Are they interior signs, like wayfaring signs? This building's over here, that building's.
Yeah,
over there.
they're all there.
They're all in there. Okay.
Okay, so, first thing is you're gonna be third on next agenda's public hearing. Okay, so we start at 6:30, so we're gonna have the first one, which is, Turner. The second one, which is Skate Time, and the last one, which will be you guys. This will be the regular April meeting, which will be on April 8th.
So just a process question.
Yep.
You said there were 10 to 15 items that the town board referred to as for our review.
In my memo, I summarized.
They were in here.
Yeah.
Don't we want to review those and do all that before we do the public hearing?
We already set the public hearing, because the application's complete.
Well, it's your call.
Yeah, but you want the public to be able to comment on all these.
No, we can go over those items first, but they're on the agenda for the third for the public hearing. We've already set the public hearing. We voted on that.
I didn't get it right.
Yes, we did.
Yep.
It was. You seconded it.
I thought maybe.
No.
So but how do we handle?
You're too busy thinking, on Redwood.
That's right.
Yeah, he was worried about the lands.
No, actually, it's probably left over from the famous site up in Pyro, you know, was the big.
Do you want to go over those 10 items with us?
These trees are probably descendants of those trees. They go back about 290 million years.
Oh, wow.
But anyway.
All right, so let's,
So
I'm
how do
gonna,
we- no, with all seriousness. how do
I'm
we-
gonna ask Dave to go over it now and see where we're at, because Alan might have already covered 5 of the 10 items. So Dave, where are we at on the 10? Go ahead.
All right, so the town board and its approval and including seeker determination expects control of dust and sediment during construction phases for impact on air, impact on plants and animals, expects the existing 0.2 acre wooded area to remain undisturbed.
Okay, so that'll be a condition of approval.
And if mature trees will be removed, have to follow protocols.
Dave, are these,
These are in the negative declaration.
so these are conditions in the negative declaration?
They are statements in the finding statement of the negative
Okay, so
declaration.
it's not, this isn't like in the zoning requirements for site plan approval as a matter of.
No.
zoning. This is just,
It's
okay.
a part
go
of,
ahead.
Conditions of what they have to do during construction.
Negative
Yes,
declaration, yeah.
it's a little, you know, I'm still wrapping my head around how this works. They seem to drill, the town board seem to drill in the details that seem more relevant to site plan approval. So, which is why you gotta pay attention to these, because you're getting the site
Well,
plan.
I've done that, but what I would have done is in drafting the zoning amendment, I would have put those conditions in for the site plan approval required in the zoning amendment.
Correct.
That would legislate.
These are in the
Mike
finding
is the secret guy.
statement of the secret.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead, Dave. So that's a condition of
Speedies
approval.
permit not found to be needed, but,
That's not a condition.
expected certain control measures will be included in the project.
Okay.
Undefined. Impact on aesthetics, town board found that the adaptive reuse of the property will not have a visual impact and granted waivers for the height of those two buildings I mentioned.
Yep.
Impact on historic and archaeological resources, on the advice of, State Historic Preservation Officer, an archaeological survey was completed and no adverse impacts were determined, so that's covered. Impact on groundwater, new water supply wells will increase demand on supply, that was found. Based on engineering reports provided and assuming flow calculations outlined on pages 27 and 28 of this notice of determination. No substantial adverse impacts of groundwater quality. So we're just gonna have to make sure those flow calculations are still true.
Haven't changed, 3759 gallons.
Impact on transportation, traffic generation was documented. Town board found no adverse impact with assumption that 12 measures are followed as described on page 30 and 31 of this notice of determination. So we'll have to go through those 12 measures.
Okay.
Make sure that those happen. And sidewalks were not considered necessary.
Okay.
by the town.
Great.
Okay. Impact on noise, odor, and light, the applicant, town board accepted 3 measures to reduce noise impacts as described on page 33 of this notice of determination. Lighting mitigation measures are documented on page 34 and 35. So you've got noise and lighting measures that you have to factor into the site plan review.
Yep.
Or you're not in compliance with seeker.
So what the hell are they? They already did all the work. What do they want us to review? They just wanted to make sure we put in the document.
It's a gray area. They went into pretty good detail, as was described by the applicant, right?
They've already been put through the ringer, it sounds like.
Yeah, this isn't that unusual. I mean, this is what happens when the town board is the lead agency. I'm doing the exact same thing in a village of Rhinebeck where there was a proposed rezoning and representing the village board. We went through a secret review of essentially a revitalization or reuse of an existing building in a residential zone, which is also a historic district. So we ended up looking at a lot of it, but we also boxed some things for the planning board to look at, some things we didn't want to deal.
Right.
The village board, like, the screening for, landscaping is a good example. That's one thing that the board, the town board usually won't look at, but we'll have us do. The rest of it should just be, conditions that should just be in the application. If it's part of the neg
You
deck,
could just make a condition.
they should be, the application they present to us should have all those things in it.
Correct.
And we just gotta make sure that
The third part of the EEO approval is your site plan approval.
That's where we're at right now. We're checking them off here as we go.
So I think you answered my question. Most of the stuff you just mentioned.
Condition of approval.
Condition. We already said
That's
the
right. You have to wait.
landscaping.
It should be in the, we have to check it's in the application.
We're gonna check on the lighting, so it sounds like.
We have a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's why I
You're
asked.
not missing anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
It doesn't look like anything will change. I've done a few thousand project reviews in my life. Things change. So it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know what happens if you decide no bike shop, I'm gonna do something else. And then what happens with all these previous decisions?
Right.
So I'm just making the
Bike
board
shop.
aware,
Sure.
if the project changes through review or marketplace realities or whatever,
We'll talk
it's a
about,
little messy.
yeah, we'll figure that out then. All right, so where we're at right now, Alan, I need a signage update.
Yep.
Okay, we'll
Is
do
that
escrow.
Just a simple 11 by 17 rendering.
Just give me a rendering, add it to your renderings that you already have of all your signs, the additional part, whatever it's gonna look. We're gonna send the lighting to CPL for their review. So that's the two items that are outstanding on your guys' side and exterior side. We'll do escrow for $2,000. You can bring a check to town of Rochester, drop it off with Jasmine, and then we'll get that over to the escrow account so that we have money that goes against that. We'll send this to fire. We'll send this to highway for their input on the towpath side. We will prepare this to go to Ulster County Planning Board. We will set public hearing. You'll be number 3. The other items will be conditions of approval, as Dave just mentioned, so we can start on that side as well. Board members, here we go. Anne Marie. Excellent. Zorian.
I have a comments, but I'm a bit confused what our purview, what is not our purview.
Sure.
On the rendering, would be helpful if you show on the plan where the particular rendering belongs to. A couple of them I figured it out, but.
It's on the site plan.
It's like a big
Where the signs are? You mean the actual?
No, not the sign.
The buildings, the building rendering, so what the granary is, where is that on the?
Yeah, for example, one hotel I figured it out.
Oh, I
another
see.
hotel, that was.
Sure.
At least some kind of a reference here,
Sure.
where that.
Alan can give us a map note, maybe number them.
What we could probably do is work with the landscape architect, and the architect and just basically, here's the site plan, and then here's a picture of a 3D of a
Perfect.
building.
Perfect.
That way, when you're looking at it, you can see it's like, oh.
So
wow.
That's what that's gonna look like there.
Relate to the plan, because otherwise.
No, I understand.
Nice picture and where is that?
That way you're trying to figure out like which rectangle matches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, Zorian. What's next?
Okay, square footage of each building specified on plan. Sheet 2 listing doesn't include total area of hotels, employee housing, and the restaurant. There is no square footage.
That would be in the architectural drawings.
So just make sure that your square footage for each building is labeled somewhere.
It was in the design flow that was submitted to the town.
It is on
You could get them Scott Hutton's drawing.
on sheet 2, you're listing buildings, but some of them need the square footage.
So we have the architectural drawings for the site that I think have been presented before. So what we can do is we can just basically take each page and just, here's the tall barn, here's the square footage.
Perfect.
Here's the square footage,
Great.
instead of recreating the wheel.
That's great. That's
So
good.
you're gonna do it?
And you can see it on the architectural plan.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Go ahead, Zorian.
Okay, we're talking about the path to the municipal parking. Wasn't clear for me about the tractor trailers. They're gonna run over grass pavers. Wouldn't they ruin it eventually?
Well, the grass paver is basically what they are. Some of them are square pattern, some of them are basically a diamond pattern. It's basically concrete with a hollow spot
Right.
that grass can grow up out of. So it will.
Sustainable.
It's sustainable. It's going to keep growing. Obviously, cars won't impact it because they're not going to be driving it. You will have the occasional truck tire that, depending upon the size of the truck, it could lower it. Someone's driving like a sprinter van type of delivery van, they're not going to be
Not
driving.
gonna.
Someone's bringing, let's just say a day cab, semi
Like a food delivery truck.
with a pump trailer, you may have the wheels go over it. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's sustainable, but it was the best way for us to soften up the entrance, comply with the regulations, and allow safe vehicles.
So it may happen that you need to maintain it.
Right,
Okay.
right. But basically,
I was
what
trying to
happens
understand.
is you have concrete and then you have soil.
Right.
And the soil's in the voids and the soil grows grass.
Okay, we're good there.
Now about noise and music in a restaurant will be mitigated from how noise and music in the restaurant will be mitigated from being heard outside. Any plans of outdoor music? It's unclear, you guys don't say.
We
anything.
are restricted to the code,
The
which
code
is,
is 10 decibels
yeah,
above.
we didn't
Right,
ask for any
okay, so
exceptions.
based on the secret review, page 33, sounds like you need to do ambient noise study. So you can compare, how are you gonna measure the 10 dB versus what?
Yeah, so we can share what we propose. We want to have some tables outside for people to, enjoy food or a drink, kind of on
Yeah,
picnic
and I'm
tables.
bringing up because it's gonna be already been sensitive issue for public hearing before.
No, for sure.
So probably need to conduct noise study before you have this start construction and see what is your ambient and then implementing. I also notice you're introducing, which is really good, some kind of device monitoring, automatic source of
Yeah,
noise.
yeah, so we'll measure at the property, line.
So let's talk about that a second. So let's go back to Harana Market. When they asked to have seating outside on the creek, we didn't talk about noise at all.
Because it didn't say there's going to be any performance.
Well, you're proposing.
We're not proposing any.
This is just some speakers for
That's
outdoor.
all
That's noise. Yeah, that's a problem. That's, we would need some things for that.
Yeah,
But
so
we have-
You were just proposing picnic tables where people were eating. You're not proposing any noise. If you're proposing music to be played out there, that's gonna be a conversation we're gonna have to have.
Yeah, we're talking about music for people who are eating, just like.
Yep. Music in general, yes or no? Yes, we're gonna have to go down that road.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but we already have.
So let me just
Yeah, that's
describe
what I'm saying. You mentioned that.
what we propose. We want to stay within the code, which is no more than 10 decibels above ambient, which is pretty quiet. So we are gonna find whichever spots of the property line have the highest decibels. And then we're gonna measure, speakers kind of pointing toward the picnic tables if they reach one side of the property. And then putting a limiter on our system so that it can never get louder.
And that was in the EEO?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've already done all of it.
What we're not proposing is some like high-tech continuous
Right.
audio monitoring system like around the.
You're not having Led
Because
Zeppelin
We're
come
gonna
in.
be,
No.
it will likely not be audible anywhere else. That's our goal, but definitely below 10 decibels.
Okay, so-
But we need to have a datum.
Well, hang on, Zorian. So
We have,
what is it in the EEO that we need to do?
well, stating the obvious, it states in there that they have to comply with that. the
140
noise
dash.
provision, yeah.
Yep.
And it even states the provision they have to comply with. But then it's got, the following, will be undertaken. Speakers will be set up for indoor and outdoor dining upon completion of the granary site and project. Let's see here, I don't totally understand this. Notwithstanding the statutory requirements, the applicant has submitted a written acknowledgement. The additional noise mitigation measures will be undertaken at the project site as follows. Speakers will be set up for indoor and outdoor dining upon completion of the granary site project. I'm not sure why that's mitigation, but sound will be tested along the perimeter of the site
So
to determine which location on perimeter has the largest difference between ambient noise level and noise level with music on it. Levels on the main amplifier will be tested to determine what amount of amplification raises the most sensitive point on the perimeter by 10 decibels. Once locations are set and levels are discovered, a sound limiter will be installed on sound system to limit overall amplification to 10 decibels or less as required by town code with a unit such as the Atlas. They've got a specific Atlas controller limiter, a model number identified. Next, all the foregoing will be coordinated with the town of Rochester Code Enforcement Officer so the confirmation of correct methodology, procedure, interpretation or result in noise information is fully absorbed. And finally, outdoor amplified music will cease by 11 p.m. on the weekends, Friday through Sunday, and by 10 p.m. on weekdays, Monday through Thursday.
What are you reading from?
The
So
statement
before
of
we do any-
findings in the negative declaration for the EEO.
Okay,
So you want to review that?
yeah, but the short message for the board is a statement of finding. First of all, it's not, I don't know what they did because the neg deck doesn't have a statement of findings, only a EIS does, but setting that aside, any statement of findings or any finding, any secret document is not a matter of the town code. It's not self-executing. It's not even enforceable, really, other than in the review. That means that we have to make these part of our conditions of approval. That's what ultimately will make them enforceable. It could be in the zoning law, but that's not what we need to be. We need to be on the.
So do you want to review that and let us know what the next steps are, Dave?
They really didn't.
Dave Gordon?
Yeah, I will. They
Well,
really didn't-
the first part cites the code that they have to comply with.
Okay.
And then there's those six provisions.
They really did a finding statement on the neg deck.
Well, it's what the terminology bounces around a bit. I don't.
Want to write that down?
I believe, I won't forget that. Don't worry.
Anything else? Rick? I'm good. Zach? I'm good. Sydney? Peter? I'm good. Okay, great. So, gentlemen, we will await your resubmittal of those small items that we asked for. We'll wait for the escrow check to come in to Jasmine, and we will get this over to CPL for their review. We will talk at the next meeting at the public hearing, see what the public has to say. We will await fire and highway as well.
And you're gonna go to the public, to the county.
And we're going to Ulster County Planning.
Amazing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful night.
That's what happens when you do the work on the front end, that we don't have to do it on the back end.
Yeah.
Now Ulster County Planning.
No.
No,
Hang on a second, hang on.
What is
Ulster
the
County,
timeline?
Sorry, hang on.
Ulster County Planning timing is tricky.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? Why don't we go to
Because
public,
they meet on the first Wednesday.
why don't we go to Ulster County, why don't we go to planning and public hearing first and then Ulster County Planning Board, or you want to do them simultaneously?
I'm just warning you.
Oh, the timing sucks. I got you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing something with somebody else tomorrow, and they still, still waiting for the memos from last month.
We'll get it done.
All right, we'll get it to the county, let them decide.
2 days in.
Zero.
Really?
They might tell you verbally what they're gonna say.
Oh, that just is the opposite, don't work if you didn't get it done.
No, because they.
Listen, we will send it to Ulster County Planning Board and it's their response when they get back. It is what it is on time.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. You're all set.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Board votes.
Did you have a question?
It's crazy.
Tomorrow. Sorry.
So then they gotta
Tomorrow.
have.
No.
They want to start.
Process of
All right.
resolution and,
Thanks, Alan.
This was just review.
Always a pleasure.
What I haven't done, I would.
Okay, thanks.
Every day.
Oh, come on, there's one more.
All right, Bill, you're up. Yeah, let's keep moving. All right, thanks.
there's more.
Okay, 2024-6, Giordano and Bennett from Bill Eggers, a minor subdivision in an R5 district in 1832 Sampsonville. The applicant proposing a 2-lot subdivision of 56.59 acres. Bill, let's see what we got here.
$56 acres, they want to cut out, 5.6 acres for the grandson or somebody, I think it is.
Oh, everybody's got a grandson. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so Bill, you got,
Yeah.
you're taking one, making it into two. You got federal wetlands here. What do you got? State wetlands? Okay, you got delineated. You have the high watermark buffers there. It looks like that's good.
Process with, health department.
Okay, it looks like, can you have Barry do me a feasibility on that?
With full on health department.
Oh, okay, great. Looks like you have the house to be, shown here.
Yep.
Okay,
The driveway runs up between the septic reserve tank and between the septic reserve and the proposed septic. Yeah.
Main Street, you know? It's sometimes it's not a max mainstream, put it that way. And I've seen some places that called it some kind of red book or something, but it's not on mapping or anything.
So your driveway, Bill, is going through one side of the septic and the driveway cuts the reserve to the other side?
That's what they're proposing.
Wow.
It can get ugly.
I gotta meet the guy doing that one. Okay, proposed 3-bedroom. You got the 100-foot stream, wetland buffer there.
Can you put the proposed well on the map?
Oh, yeah.
The well and the outline of it.
I'm sure they have it on something.
So you have an existing house, driveway and everything, and then they're just gonna break this up. They're gonna leave the pond on the big property, that's fine. We want to have Dave review this, okay?
There's
Hit me, Peter.
a mention of the project site as part of this on an archaeological site.
You got one or you don't, or you're not sure?
It's checked as, yes, well, the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need SHPO? State Historic Preservation. What's the, do you know what it is, Bill? Okay.
They don't tell us this.
It's probably prehistoric, because of the proximity of the drain, probably prehistoric archaeological sensitivity.
See you guys.
Yes. Native
SHPO.
American.
SHPO?
Well, it's the only one that can tell you
Yeah.
what that yes means, right?
Okay. So escrow, Dave, we're gonna have you review it. SHPO, we're gonna need fire. Highway, we're on a county road. Bill, did they have a county permit for that driveway yet?
We'll have to, contact the highway department on that.
Okay. So that's county highway, right? Public Works?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Is the Board of Health approval finalized? or-
No.
Not yet, it's in process.
Board of Health. Can you, any core forest or core habitat or any issues in the back there? Nothing? Okay. Rick?
No, the well is accessing, everything else is on the map. Pretty cut and dry.
Zorian? Hey, Marie.
I'm good.
Peter?
Good.
Cindy?
I'm good.
Zach?
I have the well, that's it.
Okay, so I'm gonna have Dave review this. Bill, we'll get this out to SHPO. I'm gonna need escrow. $1,000. Small one for this?
Wow.
Do a small one, okay? I don't want you to scream at me.
I already know what it's gonna be used for.
Well, that's good. Hopefully we won't need it.
Rick, you notice that fine legend?
I saw that.
I see that. I was even gonna mention it. You could bring it up.
Write the farm note on there.
How about this? How about across the street, Bill, is Terrapin Preserve, which is an application that we just did for a lot line deletion with you. So when you were surveying that one, you did this one at the same time. I love it. I love it. Okay, so you got your, you're catching on the Rick notes and you got the Cindy notes, so that's good. Peter, you got any notes? All right. Okay, Bill, looks like you're all set.
And if I was smart, I would have just not come for my first one earlier.
Okay.
And just let you blow past
And
it.
do them all.
Just do them both now.
You're right. I didn't realize, because I go by application number when I do the agenda. I didn't realize they were right across the street, otherwise I would have done that for you. You're gonna review this? Thank you. I don't know if we're ready for public hearing, it's a little early.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we'll wait to get to your stuff on that.
Get plans up.
Okay, thank you, sir, thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, next couple items on the agenda, can I have an approval for the February 12th meeting minutes? Zach and Anne Marie, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, annual training hours requirement. We're gonna come back to that, give me 30 seconds. We're gonna talk about the workshop meeting. So I don't see a need for a workshop meeting unless we want to talk about it in training. No? Okay, I didn't think so either. So a motion to cancel the workshop meeting? Zach, Anne Marie, all in favor? Aye, any opposed, any abstention? Okay, the training requirements we'll get back in April. You have a training requirement. Everybody knows what the training requirement is. We're gonna get a lot of it from Dave this year and his partner who's gonna talk about wetlands at our next and or future meetings. So don't do any trainings yet. We might be able to satisfy that here.
And the trainings are going to be online as the prior one was, or they're gonna be offline? Are we, I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Can we do it?
No, when Dave gave a training and we just broadcast it. So yeah, we'll do that again.
Oh.
That's good, right?
No, I don't.
Well, I don't have it. I don't.
Because we had it thrown in our face.
Oh, so you're saying you'd rather it just be?
I don't know, is it mandated that we have?
No.
Okay, they did, I say. something.
Okay, sure. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to mention the town board?
Correct.
So, it's come to my attention from from a member of this board. that we should potentially draft a note to the town board about the discussion and the future discussion about special uses, or I'm sorry, special events and commercial events in our town. Determining, do we have too many? Should we put a moratorium on them? Potentially, we need to take another hard look. So with the board's input, I'd like to just go around the room and see if anybody has any objection to that. If so, I will write a letter to the town board stating that the planning board thinks it's time that this current code should be taken into a deeper look, as we have received multiple conversations, and potentially a moratorium on commercial events in the future. How do we feel about that?
If not, that's pretty draconian, but maybe it should be the commercial events only take place in certain zones. Right now, commercial events can be in any zoning code.
Okay.
Or any
So zoning code based?
Any zoning area.
What zoning codes would you recommend that they are in?
Well, it shouldn't be near residential.
So business, commercial,
Business, commercial,
industrial,
hamlet.
hamlet, okay?
I think we sent them something once before.
I'm gonna find it and send it
Months
again.
ago, if not a year ago.
Right, but if, if you're doing it in a field, if it's considered, ag, then that's like right near residential and it's not near industrial, so that goes out the window.
Well, I think it,
Well, what's the good thing about that is Ag and Markets has total control of it.
well,
Or
only
do
if it's an
they?
ag and market.
Oh, they do. They have way more control than we do.
I think the issue isn't,
Well, look at Airport Road, remember? They were an ag district.
I know, but who enforces the rules?
That, we are not an enforcement. board.
Exactly.
We are
so
a,
it doesn't make a difference at all.
well, that should be part of the memo too.
Well, ag and markets only has influence over.
Agricultural.
Yeah, agricultural events.
Sure.
Right, so the definition of what an agricultural event is.
Well, the rock
something.
concert presumably is not.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Yeah, but under
It's
ag,
not
you have
personal.
to-
yeah, and then it's a charity to grow grass. You lose.
Right, exactly. You're like, somebody Bob Lavender and,
Yeah.
and then all of a
Okay, is
sudden-
any objections to sending that?
No, single, but it needs to be detailed.
Okay, well, maybe you want to write something.
There you go.
There you go. Change.
Billable hours.
Well, it's the whole issue, it's the whole
Change.
issue of the cumulative effect of these things going into particular areas.
Well, the public is bringing this up all the time, so I mean.
I know, but the public is coming here and they need to go there.
Yeah,
So we are going to agree with the public and say, hey,
Right.
we want them to go to you and look at it. Okay, motion.
The other thing,
I'm ready to go and you're not.
the other one is this whole issue of the HOA.
Well, that's a bigger pot to piss.
But, put it on their plate again.
That's a big pot.
It doesn't fly.
Peter, what do you guys do with the Rhode Island Surface Land Trust with HOAs?
Well, I'm trying to think of one that would apply to that. I mean, my problem with the conservation easement is that there isn't really a mechanism for monitoring that
Right.
situation or enforcement.
Right.
And those are two big components.
Sure.
How do you know that their changes are done? If they are done, and then what do you do about them if they aren't?
Right.
And that's something that, Ron and Esopus does is we have to monitor annually
Right, sure.
in order to verify them. And so, as I remember hearing long before I was on the board, this problem with this particular one is that, the people that are living there are in charge of it.
Right.
And that's a conflict of interest.
Sure.
Yeah.
The fox guard then has. Okay. You
So
good?
just say, look, they should not have the HOA as being potential guardians of conservation easements.
I think that
It
would
should
be a
either
separate letter, not
Oh,
according
yeah,
to the.
it should either be them to make
Well,
it
the problem
higher.
isn't that the potential guardian, the problem is that the town refuses to take the easement, and that's so,
They have no choice.
yeah.
Well, they do have a choice, I think, because they could go to another organization.
But they-
They can't find it.
Nobody ever asked them,
Yeah,
as it turns out.
Because they didn't have to.
Right, but the problem with the town government doing it, town board doing it, is that that changes every year.
Correct.
And so they could change their whole board, and then it could
Really change that
really
project.
change
Sure.
the enforcement. So, and the other thing about that specific one, that might be interesting to include into the letter that you draft is, the severability, which Cindy brought up, is that it ceases to exist, it has to go into be ordered by a court or.
Oh, right.
Jurisdiction.
The extinguishability.
Right, extinguishability, excuse me. That maybe if that eventuality does happen, that they're required to find another conservation organization to do easement, to take over the easement, like a Mohawk Preserve, like
I'm
a.
confused. What is- Extinguishing means that
Not
it's gonna be
extinguishers.
gone, that they're doing something else with the land.
Right, if they're gonna put the nuclear plant there, they need to have somebody.
No, if they, if they decide that,
It's running.
that extends, if they decide that they can't, that they're not gonna continue the conservation easement, there's a stipulation in there that it will be done under the auspices of a court. Some organizations say if we cease to exist as a conservation organization, that it has to go to another like-minded qualified
Yeah,
organization.
but
like.
the point here is that the reason why the easement's being extinguished is because there's another compelling use of the land.
Some conditions have changed, right?
Well, it's that, it could, think 200 years from now. I mean, easements can last that long, and the world might be a different place then, just, but then you might need the land for something.
I read it as if, well.
They wanted to
if-
get rid of
if
it.
We decided we want to get rid of it.
They can.
Our compelling reason is we want to get rid of it because.
Well, and you hope, I'm not sure about this, but I believe, easements can be extinguished by a court. Circumstances, the court's not gonna do it because the plaintiff wants it. They're gonna require some sort of development.
But he needs more money and he wants to subdivide the swamp.
Right.
I'll know.
I'd like to make a motion to,
Adjourn. Oh, I agree. I'll second that one. How's that?
Mark, I'll note OSI as we speak is transferring their resources.